The sounds around him were incredibly creepy, making Lin Tian slowly open his eyes. He was confused. The scene in front of him made his hair stand on end. His back went cold. Everywhere, there were sharp-toothed, big-nosed, pointy-eared, small-limbed, deformed-looking monsters. Because the light was dim, their blood-red eyes made it even more terrifying. Lin Tian's mind had only one thought, a firm thought. This place was the netherworld, and those around him were evil spirits. Because he was already dead, hit and killed by a car. However, a shy, hurried cry came from a distance, making his blood boil. Lin Tian looked in the direction of the sound. His spirit jolted. Just 10 meters away, something was happening that made one's blood surge. Save me. Why is this happening? Why am I being violated by these lowly creatures? But my body won't listen to me. Don't save me, I want to die. I don't want to give birth to disgusting goblins. Suddenly, Lin Tian realized he had crossed into another world, and he had reincarnated as a lowly monster from anime, a goblin. Suddenly, a roar came from the bushes ahead. It made everyone's hearts tremble. Scum, I'll kill you all. 4 or 5 tall humans rushed out. Of course, they were all around 1.7 meters tall, but to goblins, who were only about a meter tall, they seemed towering. They wore simple armor, held iron swords, and wooden shields, their faces full of intense hatred. In an instant, the goblins lying on the human girls were cut down by sharp blades. Green, sticky, foul-smelling blood splattered all over Lin Tian. The stubbly man with the iron sword had a heavy expression, suddenly thrusting his sword down. The stubbly man roared, "These disgusting scum have mated with humans, they must not be spared." Kill. The genes of goblins were very peculiar. Besides being able to devour the flesh and blood of other creatures to gain abilities and evolve, they could also improve their potential by mating. For instance, a goblin that never mated would never evolve and would have a maximum level of 10. Even mating with low-level animals like wild boars or baboons could increase its level cap. But if it mated with magical creatures or other races, it could evolve into a big goblin. If it mated with humans, it would evolve into a big goblin even faster. The stronger the mating partner, the higher the evolution cap, potentially evolving into a goblin hero or even a goblin overlord. Moreover, goblin secretions contain special components that, once a female creature came into contact with them, would forcefully override their consciousness, making them almost entirely lose the ability to resist, avenge them. In an instant, the battle broke out. Of course, it was a one-sided slaughter. These humans had incredible combat power, slicing through the goblins like chopping vegetables. For Lin Tian, who had never fought, it was terrifying. All he saw were severed limbs. The ground was covered in foul-smelling blood, making it hard to take a step. "Captain, what about this goblin?" The white-robed nun used magic to encase Lin Tian and spoke. Lin Tian inexplicably felt comfortable and hurriedly begged for mercy. "I'm human. I actually reincarnated as a goblin. Don't kill me, sister nun. I believe in God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Mother bless you." Involuntarily, Lin Tian began to fantasize about being taken in by the nun's sister, developing feelings, and reaching the pinnacle of life. This was the typical trope of a world-crossing story. But the next second, the previously charming nun's face turned icy cold. "This goblin seems a bit clever. Let's take him back first. I want to study him. He might be a mutant." The two exchanged glances and smiled. Lin Tian didn't notice anything amiss, feeling extremely grateful. "Great, brother captain. When I turn back into a human, I'll repay you well. Is that so? Then I'll be waiting for your repayment." However, after being taken back, Lin Tian was completely dumbfounded. "Look at this poor little guy. He's barely breathing anymore. It's my fault for being too rough. I'm going to cut off that thing of his and make it into a specimen. Boring. I played with him for just half a month and killed him. Not even recovery potions could save him. Let's catch a few more next time." Listening to their mocking voices, Lin Tian's consciousness gradually faded. Finally, he died in this life. Around him were various torture tools stained with green sticky blood, and the stubbly man and others were laughing smugly, still unsatisfied. "You died because of your stupidity, forgetting that you were a goblin. How could humans trust or pity you? You died from endless torture and pain. The suffering of these days has even imprinted on your soul. As a transmigrator, this is the most tragic death, without exception. Congratulations, you are back to the moment you just transmigrated. Be aware that the system's gift of lives has only 2 left. If you use them all, you will die completely." Lin Tian revived again, but the intense heartache from the torment remained. It truly felt branded into his soul. His facial expression gradually twisted, looking more and more like a goblin. Remembering what happened before, he started running backward desperately. He had to escape. He had to run as far as possible while he could. Everyone prepare for battle. Humans are about to attack. This time, because they were prepared, dodging and pulling away, the goblins survived for much longer. Finally, I survived. Lin Tian ran frantically, looking back from time to time, until he ran until dawn. Finally, he had survived the dark night. In the distance, there were flickering campfires and scattered tree leaf shelters. It seemed to be a small goblin settlement. There were probably over 100 goblins. In this forest overrun by demonic creatures, he certainly couldn't survive alone. He could only seek warmth in numbers. Lin Tian immediately walked over, but to his surprise, he was not welcomed but tied up. Boss, we caught a goblin from another tribe. We have breakfast. In the goblin world, there was no such thing as compatriots. Only members of the same tribe could coexist harmoniously. From a gray-black shack, a trembling old goblin walked out. A few strands of messy white hair topped its head. It wore several bone-made ornaments around its neck and leaned on a staff made from a human skull. It seemed he had killed humans, and perhaps even mated with them. Lin Tian's pupils shrank. It was a goblin priest. Big Goblin, LV25. Race, Goblin. Profession, Priest. Title, Breeding Machine. Old and cunning, God's blessing. This was no longer a small goblin but a big goblin variant. Big goblins were a general term, including goblin warriors, goblin assassins, goblin priests, evil goblins, swift goblins, etc. Their base level cap was 30. There were also hero variants, mutant variants, leader variants, overlord variants, king variants, and so on. They were going to roast him alive. This was the harsh reality. Death was always imminent. Who would still dream of transmigrating? Better to wash up and go to sleep. Of course, Lin Tian had expected this. After all, he had transmigrated into a goblin and had access to its memories. He quickly spoke, I can make weapons. Please let me join you. When speaking to these goblins, it was best to keep the language simple and stiff, otherwise they wouldn't understand. Hearing this, the goblin priest halted its steps. It walked back to Lin Tian in a very bizarre manner, using its long, blackhead-covered nose to sniff him repeatedly. Then it said, no scent of lies. Release him. What kind of weapons can you make? The higher the rank of the goblin, the more intelligent it became, and its speech patterns were closer to humans. Simple iron tools are no problem. That way, when we encounter monsters or humans, we can win. Lin Tian stood up, his gaze resolute. He had casually watched a few episodes of Alone in the Wild, which included iron forging. He basically understood the process. Upon hearing this, the other goblins' eyes sparkled with shock. Iron tools. Of course, they knew what those were, the tools humans used to slaughter them. When they encountered those, they would bleed, sometimes losing limbs. Great. We can kill humans and never run out of meat. If we have ironware, can we attack the elf tribe to the north? I prefer elves over humans, keha. The goblin priest was also astonished, letting out an evil, sharp laugh, keha. Then hurry and make them. I'm very tired. I'll do it tomorrow. Having run for half the night, Lin Tian was already exhausted, gasping for breath. If you can't make ironware, you won't get any food. With that, it returned to the shack. That old creature was extremely cautious, never participating in battles. In its youth, it only focused on breeding and wouldn't come out unless necessary. Lin Tian had no right to make demands now. He could only find a haystack to rest, calm down, and think. To seek revenge, he couldn't rely solely on his own strength. There was an elf tribe to the north. If he could mate with the elves, his power would greatly increase. Thinking about this, he gradually fell asleep. In the midst of his sleep, Lin Tian was awakened by a gentle voice. Opening his eyes, he saw a goblin wrapped in a tattered cloth robe sitting beside him. Seeing Lin Tian awake, it tightened the robe, as if afraid of being seen. Are you hungry? Here, take this. Hearing this, Lin Tian looked not far away and saw that the goblins had caught a wild boar and were sharing the meat. So, this piece of boar skin was all this small goblin had to eat today. It might not have eaten for several days. Lin Tian felt touched but suddenly grew cautious. Wait, why are you giving this to me? I don't know. The small goblin seemed confused by the question, feeling as if it had made a mistake. Lin Tian didn't think too much about it and checked its attribute panel. Small goblin, LV3. Race, goblin. Profession, God's messenger. Title, female goblin, fallen god, pure soul, God's blessing. Skills, gene devour, wild growth. Equipment, none. Overall, 10. What? Seeing these titles, Lin Tian couldn't help but exclaim in shock. It was known that goblins didn't have females, yet a legendary female goblin had appeared. In human legends, a male goblin could become a goblin god by mating with a female goblin. Of course, this was just a mockery since goblins would never give birth to females. To reproduce, they had to mate with other creatures. Lin Tian gradually recovered from his shock. No wonder this little guy was so intelligent. Seeing his reaction, the small goblin was frightened and sat on the ground. I meant no harm. I just wanted to give you some food, sob. Sorry for scaring you. Thank you for the food. Let's eat together. Lin Tian quickly apologized, realizing he didn't need to speak so simplistically with her. He then tore the boar skin in half, stuffing one part into her mouth and swallowing the other himself. Though it tasted terrible, it undoubtedly helped restore his strength. The small goblin ate slowly, savoring it as if it were a gourmet meal. In this tribe, she was ostracized not just because of her weakness, but also because she couldn't communicate with other goblins, like a normal person trying to fit in with a group of idiots. So the newly arrived Lin Tian piqued her curiosity, prompting her to try and communicate. Okay boss, I love watching the moon, so call me Gabu. What goblins lacked in everything, they made up for in numbers. But he hadn't expected it to take a full 2 days before a goblin finally found a piece of iron ore. In the following days, all the goblins went out looking for ore, but even after searching the entire area, they didn't find much. As expected, iron ore was a rare resource coveted by high-intelligence species. It seemed they would have to seize the elf tribe's iron mine in the future. He needed to deal with the old and cunning goblin priest. Poisoning didn't work, so he had to rely on brute force. Currently, his level cap was 10. He needed to continue devouring the flesh of powerful monsters or engage in mating. The only female around was his little brother, Gabu. Gabu, what do you think of me? They had reached a sufficient distance. Gabu was a bit confused but answered seriously, although I haven't known you for long. I think you are a very good goblin. There's no better goblin in the world than you. Upon hearing this, Lin Tian suddenly pushed Gabu against a tree in a forceful cabe-dawn. He then tore off her robe. Boss, no, what are you doing? Gabu panicked, struggling to grab her robe. Sorry, Gabu, but we need to survive. Lin Tian almost got lost in her appearance. Feeling embarrassed under his gaze, Gabu shyly asked, Boss, do I look strange? No, you're the most beautiful goblin girl I've ever seen. Your eyes have stars in them. Can you help me get stronger? Boss, what are you going to do? Gabu fidgeted, a blush appearing on her green cheeks. Lin Tian, ignoring any preliminaries, said, Gabu, it's time for you, as my subordinate, to help your boss out. Are you ready? I might, maybe, probably not. Gabu stammered, her little heart starting to pound. Suddenly, Lin Tian pulled her into his embrace, feeling her warm breath. His eyes darted, looking very scared. She tried to speak but was silenced by Lin Tian's kiss, unable to say a word, only able to weakly resist. When the power of the goblin god's blessing activated, even a female goblin couldn't resist. She was completely subdued. At dawn, Lin Tian carried the exhausted Gabu back to the tribe. There were still important tasks to handle, like the iron ore in the furnace, which might burn out. Nearly 10 days and we've only gathered this little, barely enough to make 10 short swords, Lin Tian said bitterly, looking at the 7 or 8 lumps of ore in front of him. But then he had a flash of inspiration. Since they couldn't make many short swords, they could make spears. They could make at least 50 spearheads. With 50 spears, they could easily capture the elf tribe's iron mine and fully arm themselves. In a 10-kilometer radius, no creature would dare provoke this tribe. Boss, I just made this iron tool. Take a look. Oh, bring it here. The goblin priest showed interest and stopped. Lin Tian was planning to play the role of Jin Qi trying to assassinate the Qin Emperor. The priest was old and frail, with very low health. 2 or 3 strikes could actually kill him. Just as Lin Tian was a step away, the priest suddenly spoke. Put the scythe on the ground. I'll take it myself. Lin Tian's heart skipped a beat. This old guy was wary to such an extent. He must have suspected Lin Tian's intelligence was too high, hence his caution. Ha. It's really iron. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he glared coldly at Lin Tian. You can die now. The next second, he charged at Lin Tian with the knife in hand. This old thing is so insidious. Lin Tian had thought he definitely wanted to kill him, but he hadn't expected him to be so straightforward. He even knew to strike first and use diversionary tactics. In an instant, he took the priest down. Weaker than I imagined, it seems I overestimated the defensive power of goblins. Lin Tian hadn't expected to win so easily and remarked with a sigh. By killing him, he could take over this group of goblins, then rapidly grow them to seek revenge on the stubbled man and the white-robed nun. At this moment, the goblins who had gone out to find wooden sticks came back one after another. Seeing this scene, they all became enraged and ferocious, extremely excited, but didn't know what to do. Kill him. The goblin priest, already in such a miserable state, had lost all authority and his call skill was ineffective. From now on, I am your new boss. I will lead you to attack the elves, attack humans, ferociously mate, and have endless meat to eat. In a moment, cheers erupted. New boss. New boss. Lin Tian cut off one of the goblin priest's arms and threw it to the goblin crowd. Boss, boss. The goblins swarmed like bees, beginning to fight over the food. Lin Tian then stepped aside, allowing the goblin crowd to completely devour the priest, eating him clean. Now, he was the boss of this group of goblins, and he had gained the call skill. 5 days passed. This time, they finally collected enough ore. They began large-scale iron smelting, until everyone was equipped with armor and weapons. Looking at this goblin tribe from afar was terrifying. It was comparable to an army. The pity was their low intelligence and lack of tactics. Today, we will go to the enchanted forest to kill monsters. You must follow my orders, or you will die. Lin Tian stood on a rock and shouted to all the goblins in the tribe. He planned to train them so that attacking the elves would be easier when the time came. 3 days passed. This mighty goblin army had killed 3 Tier 2 monsters, the enchanted wolves, giant toothed boars, and earthstone monsters. 4 Tier 1 monsters, tailless cats, ghost-faced monkeys, double-headed snakes, and wandering spirits. Besides iron-blooded wolf nature, they also gained the giant tooth skill, allowing their teeth to grow larger and stronger, increasing attack power as they grew. Then there was stone skin, which added 15 points to their basic defense, equivalent to wearing plate armor. The most important abilities came from the Tier 1 monsters, ghost-faced monkeys and tailless cats. Climbing and silent steps. These would be crucial when attacking the elf tribe. The remaining abilities weren't very useful. The double-headed snake could secrete venom, and the wandering spirit could turn into a ghost for a while after death. But for now, it was enough. Returning to the tribe, Lin Tian was pleased to see these goblins. All their strengths significantly increased. Now, even an ordinary goblin had a total strength over 200, comparable to an average human adventurer. To the north, in the Myriad Forms forest, lay the elf tribe. Many towering trees grew here, their trunks usually more than 10 meters thick. The elves liked to carve out wooden houses high up in these trunks to live in. It was an excellent way to avoid enemies. Coupled with their proficiency in using bows and arrows, it made the place easy to defend and hard to attack. Many monsters, and even humans, came and could only leave in disgrace. As a result, the elves had occupied the forest for thousands of years. On a giant banyan tree, approximately 20 meters thick and 100 meters tall, with lush branches and leaves. The elf matriarch of this tribe, Leah, resided there. "Mother, it's me. Cassandra, come in." A woman's voice answered from inside, very mature and gentle. Cassandra, slightly shy, bowed her head and stammered, "Mother, I'm here to report a discovery." "Go ahead, child." Leah spoke calmly. In the forest near the eastern edge, a dead black-brown giant bear was found, almost entirely devoured by monsters. To my knowledge, only one creature in this enchanted forest is stronger than the black-brown giant bear, but it should live in the west. Besides many first and second tier monsters scavenging, numerous goblin footprints were also discovered. Could it be them? Goblins? Absolutely not. Those low-level monsters could never kill a black-brown giant bear. Not even a hero variant goblin could do it. Moreover, the goblins in this enchanted forest are weak and negligible. Hearing the word goblin, disdain and contempt filled Leah's eyes. However, the lack of any trace of the victor was peculiar. Ultimately, Leah concluded, it's most likely humans. Only those cunning and evil beings could kill a black-brown giant bear without leaving any trace. Perhaps, Mother, I'll take my leave then, and report back if anything else arises. Cassandra flashed a sweet smile, cheerfully speaking. Go on, thank you for your hard work, child. Boss, there are about 30 elven treehouses in the Myriad Forms forest, all very tall. A goblin was explaining to Lin Tian, even borrowing the fingers of other goblins to count accurately. Lin Tian nodded, well done. I'll reward you with 2 elves later. 2 elves? Ha ha ha. Thank you, boss. Long live the boss. Lin Tian began to ponder. 30 elven treehouses, averaging 2 elves per house, though some might live alone. This meant at least 60 elves, and including the 10 or so at the ore outpost, there were at least 70. Each elf had an overall combat strength of about 200, which Lin Tian had checked at the ore outpost area. This was lower than his goblin subordinates, but the elves' dwelling places were easy to defend and hard to attack, and they moved quickly. Normally, it would be impossible to take them down. However, they had hunted many first-tier ghost-faced monkeys and all had learned the climb skill. They could easily climb trees. A nighttime raid could capture them all. Tonight, we'll attack the elves. Produce more strong goblins then. Lin Tian shouted, boosting everyone's morale. Upon hearing this, instantly, the whole tribe responded with intense shouts. They all began sharpening their knives and preparing their armor for the night raid. Meanwhile, Lin Tian planned to use the life simulation system again to see if any unexpected events might occur that night. System, start life simulation. The life simulation system is starting. Current scenario, the night before the raid. You killed the goblin priest and took control of this small tribe, greatly enhancing the strength of all goblins. You are confident, as your overall attributes surpass the elves, and it's a surprise attack. Upon reaching the Myriad Forms forest, the goblins climbed the tree houses, opened the doors, but found no elves. Looking back, the elves had hidden in the treetops beforehand and with their bows, overwhelmed the goblins, killing them all. You were not spared and were captured by the elf matriarch, who hanged you in the Myriad Forms forest as a warning to the goblins. Summary: what seemed flawless was actually under someone else's control. Score: 0 out of 100. Reward: none. This life simulation is complete. Time progression: 0 days. What? Lin Tian snapped back, shocked at the complete failure and annihilation. What had gone wrong? What seemed flawless was actually under someone else's control. Immediately, Lin Tian thought of a possibility. He was being watched. His cold eyes began to carefully scan the surroundings of the tribe. Finally, he spotted a figure dressed in black stealth attire hidden in the treetops, undoubtedly an elven sentry. He had been outmaneuvered. I must capture her quickly, or it'll be disastrous if she returns. Lin Tian thought rapidly, determined not to let her escape and report back. But elves excelled at leaping between treetops, and goblins with their small bodies couldn't catch her. He could only resort to shooting a hidden arrow. Elves had keen senses, so Lin Tian had the goblins start dancing around the bonfire to distract the elf. An open attack is easy to dodge, but a hidden arrow is hard to defend against. With all his strength, he shot an arrow at her. Cassandra suddenly felt a sharp pain in her buttocks. Her small face turned bright red as she finally couldn't hold back and screamed, "Pain, pain, 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 pain." Lin Tian estimated the time was about right and slowly walked out standing still. "My hand, it feels weak. This is bad." Lin Tian slowly approached, his eyes also lighting up as he looked at her figure. He sneered, "Finally caught you. You were the one shooting arrows at me earlier. Damn goblin, what did you do to me?" Cassandra used all her strength but couldn't move at all. Her whole body was paralyzed. Lin Tian didn't explain. Instead, he said to himself, "Since you wanted to shoot me to death earlier, I'm sorry. But I believe in an eye for an eye." He extended his claws and hooked them. Rip. The silken clothes she wore were torn open. "Help. Mother, brother, father. How could this happen? It's just a group of goblins. How could I?" Cassandra cried out in fear, but there was nothing she could do. Ding. Congratulations on increasing your level cap by 30. Due to reaching the highest aptitude, it has been converted into 50 health points, 10 strength, and 10 defense. Lin Tian was slightly stunned. Did this mean he unlocked the elf race and increased his level cap? But what was with the highest aptitude converting to attribute points? Seeing that the time was almost up, Lin Tian locked her in a cage first. "We still need to attack the elf tribe. As for this elf, wait until tonight. Then you can all enjoy yourselves." Although they were eager like wolves remembering the attack on the elf tribe, they chose to hold back. Immediately, they readied the army and set out. Lin Tian climbed towards the highest wooden house, the residence of the elf matriarch. Using the silent steps skill of the tailless cat, even the sharpest elf ears couldn't detect him. Her attributes were decent, but Lin Tian's overall attributes had reached 400, so he wasn't afraid. "Who are you?" "Wait, a goblin. How did you get here?" She immediately drew her short sword and coldly questioned him. Seeing the situation exposed, Lin Tian shouted, "Attack!" The goblins who had been lurking rushed into the wooden houses. They stabbed the male elves immediately upon sight. It was a chaotic frenzy with no chance to fight back. "Don't resist. Your sentries have been captured by me and mated with. We are family now, KK." "Sentries? Cassandra, what did you do to her?" Leah's expression was uncontrollable as she frantically attacked Lin Tian. Blades clashed. Lin Tian began to counterattack with his dagger, easily overpowering Leah. "It seems you don't know what's good for you. Wouldn't it be better to obediently become a breeding tool?" With a swift movement, his poison-coated dagger slashed Leah's fair calf. "Impossible. How can a lowly goblin fight me?" Leah was shocked. "Matriarch, you should stop resisting. I will treat you well. Go to hell. Give me back Cassandra." That night, the Myriad Forest became a living hell. By the next morning, Lin Tian and his group finally brought back all 30 surviving elves to the tribe. How can this be? How were they captured by goblins? Cassandra, in a cage, clutched her head in madness, unable to believe the scene before her. But Leah's voice made her acknowledge it. "Cassandra, my child, it's the matriarch's fault, I'm sorry." She had grossly underestimated these goblins' strength, which was highly unusual. A single goblin's strength exceeded that of a male elf. Even she couldn't defeat them. "Get off me, you disgusting goblins." By then, the goblins couldn't contain themselves any longer. Even after traveling all night, they were still full of energy. They immediately began expanding the tribe's population. Leah couldn't bear to watch and looked at Lin Tian. "Are you their leader? Release Cassandra and the children, and I will stay here forever, all right. You're willing. Then show me your sincerity." Lin Tian stood there with a wicked smile. Cassandra in the cage couldn't bear to watch. "Matriarch, don't do this." Ding, congratulations to the host for receiving a qualification upgrade. Converted to 200 health, 30 strength, 30 defense. Another conversion. Lin Tian was bewildered and suddenly thought of something. Could it be that mating with Gabuyu would really allow him to evolve into a goblin god? So, the qualifications that should have improved directly converted into attributes. In that case, if he sought out more powerful individuals to mate with, wouldn't his strength increase crazily? Now, he could already crush that bearded man. Soon, more than half a month passed. Gradually, the elves accepted their fate. Lin Tian found a good place and started simulating. Life simulation system is starting. Current scenario, capturing elves. After considerable effort, you finally conquered the northern elf tribe and impregnated all the captured female elves. Seeing that the tribe members would soon expand, you planned to seek revenge on the Stubbly man. The pregnant elves successfully gave birth to goblins, whose attributes were much stronger than ordinary goblins. While the small goblins grew up, you sneaked into a nearby human town, searching for the whereabouts of the Blades of Valor, and finally found them in Bright Town. Option 1. Take action yourself and try to kill Loader and others, rating 50. Option 2. Go back and lead the goblins to avenge, while also slaughtering Bright Town, rating 30. Option 3. Watch and wait, thinking it's not the right time yet, observe for a while, rating 10. Lin Tian's expression tightened. He found those damned guys. Choosing the first option carried great risk. Although his overall attributes had already reached 600, he was still in human territory. If attacked by a group, he would definitely die. The second option was also good and had always been his plan. However, based on past experience, choosing this would definitely lead to death. This time, he chose option 3, to endure and observe. You became cautious, which is a good habit, so you stayed in Bright Town, learning that a dragon often attacked the town. And Loader had even invited the Sword Saintess to slay the dragon. When you tried to leave, you were discovered by the Sword Saintess and died miserably under her powerful sword. Summary: facing the powerful Sword Saintess, there was no chance to escape at all. Be sure to be careful. Rating: 30 points. Reward: life points x 30. This life simulation is over. Time progressed 9 days. Lin Tian snapped out of the system, his expression serious. Damn it, he died again. Was it that easy? Unexpectedly, it was the Sword Saintess again. He had to find a chance to deal with her. It was time for the elves to give birth. Lin Tian and Gabuyu helped with the delivery, fearing anyone would have a difficult birth. These elves were extremely precious breeding machines. No one could die. As the cries of babies echoed, Lin Tian gradually relaxed. However, there were still voices of disgust from the elves. No, not this kind of child. So disgusting. Why did I give birth to such a horrible thing? Oh my god, is this my child? At this time, the anxious voice of the elf matriarch Leah rang out. In the cage, Kashana was sweating profusely, lying and sitting in pain, unable to give birth. Lin Tian frowned and quickly went to check. Seeing him, Kashana strongly resisted. Get away. Don't look at me, don't look at me. She was very angry, very ashamed, and with the pain below, she began crying loudly. Already lacking physical strength, crying exhausted her faster, risking death from weakness. Leah, also exhausted from just giving birth, couldn't help at all. She pleaded, please save this child. She's not going to make it. I know. Lin Tian, having learned about this before, directly helped correct the position. In a short while, a goblin infant covered in mucus was born. Then another. Eventually, 6 in total were born. Sextuplets. This time, she gave birth to the most. Lin Tian was a bit surprised. No wonder she had a difficult birth. You bastard. Kashana weakly said, her voice small but her stubbornness strong. Leah couldn't help but shed tears, glad that Kashana was safe. We can use them again. Let me go first. At this moment, a group of goblins, unable to bear the heat in their bodies, started crawling towards the exhausted elves. Lin Tian's eyes turned cold. He took out his short sword and walked over, swish. Blood splattered, and he split the leading 3 goblins in half on the spot. feeding them to the newborn goblin infants. I said they need to rest for 3 days before breeding. Have you all forgotten? Facing the murderous Lin Tian, the goblins trembled in fear and backed away. Then Lin Tian said, "Go prepare the best fruits. Each elf gets double the usual amount." "Yes, boss." A group of goblins ran off in terror, afraid of being slaughtered. You really are different from ordinary goblins." Seeing Lin Tian at this moment, Leah's expression changed slightly, as did the expressions of the other elves who had just given birth. Lin Tian said calmly, "This is how it should be. As long as you behave, your treatment will be better." Leah lowered her head and said nothing more. She looked at the small goblins she had given birth to, who were now lying beside her eating, and she didn't know what to think. "Gabu, I plan to visit the human territory in the next few days. The tribe will be under your management." Lin Tian gazed into the distance as he spoke. A flash of murderous intent flickered in his eyes. He intended to find the whereabouts of Loader and the white-robed nun. Gabu looked a bit worried but nodded anyway. At this moment, Leah's voice rang out, "You're going to human territory. Are you crazy? Goblins get killed just for approaching. What choice do I have? I can only take the risk." Lin Tian shrugged. After a long pause, the hesitant Leah finally said, "Come over here, I'll cast the stealth skill on you so you won't be easily detected by humans." This was exactly what Lin Tian had been waiting for. He teased, "I didn't expect you to care about my safety." "How rare." "Not at all. I just fear that if you die, the other goblins will be more brutal." Leah blushed slightly and then helped Lin Tian complete the stealth buff. After a simple disguise, he covered his body with a stealth cloak that made him look like an ordinary passerby about 1.5 meters tall. It looked quite strange, but with the stealth buff, most people wouldn't notice him. Lin Tian felt assured with this outfit. He then set off, leaving the enchanted forest. Bright Town. It looked quite large, probably home to 200 or 300 families, covering a vast area. It even had professional defensive walls. It was almost like a small city. However, entering the town at night would easily expose him, so he decided to wait until morning to blend in with the large crowd. Sure enough, even though the guards checked, they didn't notice Lin Tian. The stealth buff only worked well in a crowd. Upon entering the town, it was unexpectedly lively. The people here all seemed to be smiling and happily strolling around. The numerous vendors made the scene dazzling. "I didn't expect people to live so well in this world." Lin Tian found it hard to believe. Surviving in the enchanted forest was tough and nerve-wracking for him. These people even had spare money to buy snacks and go for a stroll. When he reached a small square, he finally understood. Bright Town Adventurer Team Rankings: 1. Platinum level, Blades of Valor. 2. Silver level, Gale Adventurers. 3. Silver level, Savior Adventurers. 4. Bronze level, Poskeya Adventurers. This must be the human world's ranking list. He didn't expect Loader and his scumbags to be at the platinum level. They must have improved a lot recently. So what? I already have an excellent plan. Even if the Sword Saintess comes, you won't escape my grasp. Lin Tian continued to wander around the town. He wasn't just wandering idly, he was surveying the terrain, estimating the population, the number of soldiers, and the defense facilities. He even took note of the underground drainage systems and so on. He wanted to fully grasp all the information about this town. By nightfall, he had figured it all out. Just as he passed by a tavern, he heard that familiar, hateful voice. "Ha ha ha, drink. Keep drinking hard these days, Loader." Immediately, he entered the tavern to see what was going on. Unexpectedly, the place was packed, with people crammed in from top to bottom. This was perfect for him. Lin Tian found a corner and scanned the crowd, finally spotting Loader and his companions. They were sitting around the center of the tavern. It was still the same few people: Leader Loader, the white-robed nun, the red-haired knight, and the silver shield-bearer. At this moment, Loader took a hearty drink and said proudly, "You don't know, when facing that four-armed demon ape, it almost killed me with one punch. Fortunately, Ifraya used the holy skill Foresee Death to save me. That's why having a healer in the team is so important." The four-armed demon ape was a 4th-tier monster, level 40, extremely powerful. Upon hearing this, everyone couldn't help but cheer. The red-haired knight and the silver shield-bearer grumbled beside her. "What? You're only praising your man. Don't we count?" No, you two are amazing too, all right," Ifraya replied in mock annoyance, casting a flirtatious glance at Loader. Their relationship didn't need much explanation. Recently, the evil dragons on Dragon Island have entered their breeding season and often come to steal the herders' cattle, sheep, and horses, making people afraid to graze their livestock. "You adventurers are so great, why don't you go slay the dragons?" At this moment, the tavern owner spoke in a contemplative tone. He was wiping glasses at the bar, his tone heavy. Slay dragons. That was indeed every adventurer's dream, but dragons weren't so easy to slay. It was known that an adult dragon was at least level 50 and could fly. They had immense health and high attack power. Only diamond-level adventurers could handle them. Anyone else would just be offering themselves up as a meal. It seems that Bright Town is in trouble. We must quickly seek aid from the capital. Otherwise, those evil dragons might even eat people. During the breeding season, dragons needed a lot of nutrients, and each dragon needed to eat 2 tons of food a day. The nearest land town to Dragon Island was Bright Town. Undoubtedly, it would become the dragon's first target. At this moment, Loader finally spoke, calmly saying, "Everyone, rest assured. I have written a letter asking my master to come and slay the dragon. With her here, it will be a simple matter, and there is no need to request troops from the capital." What? Wow, really? We can see the unparalleled beauty of the Sword Saintess. This time we've hit the jackpot. Not only can we see the Sword Saintess, but we can also witness dragon slaying firsthand. In an instant, the previously dispirited residents were invigorated and extremely excited. Who hadn't heard of the Sword Saintess's stories? She had single-handedly swept through the 1,000-mile magical forest to the west of the empire. She had defeated the strongest swordsmen of several neighboring countries in single combat, winning every match. Most importantly, she was said to be as beautiful as an angel fallen to the mortal world. Some perverts even wanted to be judged and punished by her. At this time, Lin Tian slowly got up and left the tavern. If he stayed any longer, the Sword Saintess might arrive and discover his identity. However, he had already gathered enough information. When the Sword Saintess and the others fought the dragons, he could seize the opportunity to take out some key targets. His goal of killing or capturing Loader would be relatively easier. Soon, another month passed. Lin Tian tried simulating life 3 times, succeeding twice and failing once. The failure was not due to the Sword Saintess discovering him, but because Loader was killed by the evil dragons in the chaotic battle. Although he had succeeded, if he didn't do it himself, it would lose its meaning. It had to be done personally to be effective. As the time for the dragon's massive attack on Bright Town approached, Lin Tian began preparing for a sneak attack. This time, about 70 to 80 second-generation goblins had been born. All had grown to adulthood. Even if these second-generation small goblins were whiteboards, at around level 10, their attributes were close to those of ordinary humans. They naturally had a level cap of 30, making them very powerful. If there were hundreds, even thousands of these goblins, leveling up to the max would be enough to take down a human city. Perhaps the 3rd or 4th generation would be even stronger. So, Lin Tian did not bring these goblins this time. He only brought the 1st generation ones. Even if they all died in Bright Town, he wouldn't feel any pain. He also didn't plan for them all to come back alive. Now was the time for survival of the fittest, even though these guys had fought alongside Lin Tian before. But goblins were goblins. Where was the talk of emotions and humanity? They were just consumables. Then, leading nearly 100 fully armed 1st-generation goblins, he set off for Bright Town. The grand arrival of the Sword Saintess had the whole town celebrating for 3 days and nights. In the church, a tall woman, at least 178 centimeters, clad in dazzling gold and white armor, stood inside praying. Her tall stature, paired with the long sword at her waist, exuded an imposing aura. "Master, recently we've seen a few evil dragons lurking near the town. Since no one is grazing their livestock, they seem to be getting impatient and may soon attack the town." Even though he was of imperial blood, he could only behave respectfully in front of this extraordinarily powerful swordswoman. He dared not have any impure thoughts. "I understand. Let's go. We need to arrange for some dragon hunting crossbows. Otherwise, none of you will be of any use when the time comes, and it will be my disgrace." The Sword Saintess turned slowly as she spoke. At that moment, even Loader's heart trembled. Her flawless face was a masterpiece, every line exquisitely crafted. Outside, most of the men in the town were gathered around the church, craning their necks to catch a glimpse of her beauty. "Oh my God, is that the Sword Saintess? So noble, so beautiful. What is that invisible aura of sanctity? It's much more than what I feel from nuns. A woman who combines power and beauty. I can't imagine what kind of man could conquer her. Don't even think about it. Even our Lionheart Emperor wouldn't dare make a move on her." As the Sword Saintess emerged, the residents made way. Her commanding presence was entirely different from that of the townsfolk. They heard her say, "Collect a large amount of wood and build 10 dragon hunting crossbows within a day." Yes, yes, yes. A group of people eagerly began working. In less than half a day, the wood was collected. Following the blueprints provided by the Sword Saintess, 10 dragon hunting crossbows were completed before nightfall. They were placed at various high points around the town. These crossbows were so large they needed wooden carts for mobility, and required the strength of more than a dozen adult men to pull back the strings. Each was about 10 meters long, equipped with 2-meter-long bolts. Only then could they be called dragon hunting crossbows. Suddenly, a thunderous roar echoed from the distant sky, deafening and shattering. It was a fear embedded in human instinct. Most of the residents of Bright Town were so scared that their legs went weak, nearly collapsing to the ground. Women and children ran into their houses in terror. Even Loader and his team wiped cold sweat from their foreheads. The dragon's might was too terrifying. However, a majestic figure stood on the city wall, a platinum cape fluttering in the wind, showing no fear at all. It boosted everyone's morale. The fear significantly diminished. Besides Loader's group, the other hero teams mainly assisted in evacuating the masses. Suddenly, the clouds in the sky were swept away by a gust of wind. The dragons finally appeared. Their bodies were covered in black and brown skin, without fur, sharp fangs, and claws, with dragon wings that blotted out the sky. Whoosh! A piercing sound of the arrow breaking through the air exploded instantly. Incredibly, a distant, sorrowful dragon's roar rang out. The giant dragon, like a bird with broken wings, fell from the sky. This scene immediately moved all the residents of Bright Town to tears of gratitude. Indeed, the Sword Saintess is incredibly strong. We just need to take refuge, and when we come out, the dragon threat will be over. The real dragon is coming. Everyone get ready at the dragon hunting crossbows. At this moment, the Sword Saintess said solemnly. Seeing her on guard, the others were so scared they scrambled to get in position. Suddenly, a lightning-like dragon roar resounded through the heavens and earth. This roar far surpassed the previous dragon's roar on a completely different level. Look there. Oh my god. What is that? A resident shouted in terror. In the distant sky, a truly enormous dragon broke through the clouds. Its head was larger than an entire ordinary dragon. Its body was dark purple with numerous prominent gold and purple bone spurs, so massive it seemed like a mountain moving closer. Loader's heavy voice spoke. Purple Gold Dragon Mother, a level 79 super monster. Is that the Dragon King? Quick, shoot. The crowd finally reacted, all drawing their bows and loading. 10 dragon hunting crossbows fired simultaneously in the direction of the Purple Gold Dragon Mother. The piercing sound of the arrows breaking through the air felt like it could rupture eardrums. However, the Purple Gold Dragon Mother opened her gaping maw, spewing a torrent of golden purple flames. The incoming arrows were all reduced to ashes. Moreover, the flames lasted for an extended period. They shot from over a kilometer away, reaching the front of Bright Town. Everything in its path was scorched to cinders, rendering the arrows ineffective. Faced with that terrifying heat wave, the residents' legs went weak, unable to stand. If they were to be hit by those flames, they would turn to ashes instantly. High-tier sword skill, Sword Kai Surge. Finally, the Sword Saintess drew her sword. A flash of cold light appeared as a magical array gathered on her longsword, unleashing a Sword Kai wall as grand and overwhelming as a tsunami. It directly blocked the dragon flames. Loader had seen much in his time, but the other members of the hero team were so shocked they nearly shouted. High-tier sword skill. My god, it's high-tier. As expected of the Sword Saintess, witnessing the use of a high-tier sword skill is worth dying for. The dragon flames were just blocked like that. Incredible. Sword skills, magic, martial arts, and so forth were collectively referred to as combat skills. On a small hill far from Bright Town, Lin Tian watched the sea of flames in the distance, unable to help but sigh. As he spoke, a wicked smile appeared on his lips. Even a random dragon had such absurdly high attributes, and they could fly. Lin Tian couldn't help but be surprised. Bright Town had provoked an entire dragon nest, probably around 50 or 60 dragons. It was definitely going to be destroyed. However, with that powerful figure present, it was hard to say. Lysenia, LV80. Race, human. Profession, Sword Saintess. Title, Sword Saintess. Strongest swordsman. Dragon Slayer, Peerless Warrior, Top Human, Swordsmanship Genius. Damn it, it was too monstrous. He had thought there was only a slight gap, but it turned out to be a terrifyingly huge difference. The key was that her titles and skills were so many that the system couldn't even list them all. Moreover, many of them included the word holy, giving her a holy bonus specifically against monsters, adding an extra 10% damage. However, Lin Tian's target this time was not her, but Loader and his people. As long as he could complete his revenge first. They saw the Sword Saintess weaving through the air, not flying, but stepping on those wyverns. Every now and then, a sword slash would decapitate a dragon. She leaped onto the Purple Gold Dragon Mother. She immediately slashed through its giant wings, causing the Purple Gold Dragon Mother to plummet into the distance. Meanwhile, Loader and his group had only managed to kill 10 dragons in total, but at least they had almost wiped out half. The remaining wyverns frantically spewed dragon flames, destroying the town. They also set their sights on Loader and his people. With claws extended, they pounced. Ifraya, prepare, Loader called out with a serious expression. The white-robed nun immediately activated her skill, Holy Sound, chanting the Bible. Within a certain range, teammates received an attack boost. Goblins, why are there goblins here? Loader and the others nearby frowned. Damn it, where's my master? You two hold on, there aren't many dragons left. Ifraya, come with me, let's kill those damned goblins, Loader said angrily, rushing over in a hurry. 20 meters, 10 meters, getting closer and closer. Suddenly, a short sword stabbed out from the ashes, piercing Loader's foot. It hurts, Loader screamed, thinking he had stepped on something sharp, only to realize it was a goblin. He quickly moved to kill it. At this moment, the hidden goblins pounced on him. Initially, he could resist, killing a dozen goblins, but the sheer number overwhelmed him, all aiming to seize his sword. In the end, he had to admit defeat. Captain, help me. I have been captured by goblins. Ifraya's panicked voice rang out as she was ensnared in a net, being dragged along the ground. Like dragging a dog. It was very humiliating. Loader's heart tightened. Damn it. Damn it. Why are there so many goblins here? However, he was already very weak, and without his weapon, he couldn't resist. Damn it, Captain. Ifraya, the red-haired knight and the silver shield-bearer saw the situation from a distance, and, ignoring the wyverns, rushed over to help. But as they passed a pile of collapsed buildings, a chill ran down their spines. Lurking for a long time, Lin Tian struck, his face full of a cold smile, directly piercing the body of the red-haired knight. You, when did you? The red-haired knight's eyes widened in disbelief. No, Loader let out a painful shout but could only watch helplessly as the red-haired knight's health hit zero. Damn goblins, I will kill you all, Loader roared with heart-wrenching fury. Ifraya also burst into tears, even though she had never reacted like this when facing dragons. Now, 2 teammates had died directly. Lin Tian coldly smiled and said, it's time to go. The rest of you, go hunt those controlling the dragon crossbows. Then, with about 10 goblins, he took the 2 and jumped into the drainage ditch, making a quick escape. Just like that, Bright Town was completely thrown into chaos. What's going on? Goblins dare to invade at a time like this. The Sword Saintess's tone held a hint of surprise as she coldly stared at the woman in purple armor before her. The woman in purple armor was the purple gold dragon mother, transformed into human form. She stood about 2 meters tall, with a very hot figure. The armor wasn't exactly armor but an exoskeleton grown from her flesh, very imposing. The purple gold dragon mother opened her mouth full of sharp teeth and said, it seems you can barely take care of yourself. Human Sword Saintess. As she spoke, she reached out with her clawed hand and attacked again. Her speed was incredible. The Sword Saintess still handled it with ease. Barely take care of myself. Let's see how much more dragon blood you have left to spill. High-tier sword technique. Steel Gale. She formed magical runes on her long sword and began swinging wildly. Each strike released a powerful, tangible sword kai. The Sword Saintess was about to pursue but was interrupted by the piercing screams of Bright Town's residents, breaking her focus. Since her task was to protect Bright Town, it wouldn't count as protection if everyone died. She had to turn back and rush towards Bright Town. Heh, goblins. Thank you very much. I almost got finished by this crazy woman. Transforming back into a sky-covering giant dragon, she flew towards Dragon Island. With a roar, the remaining dozen dragons also followed. Continuing was no longer necessary, the losses were too severe this time. Did she escape? Never mind, I'll personally go to Dragon Island and slaughter them clean. The Sword Saintess looked up at the sky and whispered. Then she hurried into Bright Town. Residents emerged from the shelter, and a group of goblins was wantonly slaughtering them, bodies strewn all over the ground. Under her watch, Bright Town had become like this. Loader, you useless fool. Can't you even kill a bunch of goblins? However, no one responded. The Sword Saintess's anger intensified. At this moment, a severely injured adventurer stepped forward. Your Holiness, Loader and the others, they were captured by the goblins. What? The Sword Saintess was shocked. Captured by mere goblins. After all, he was considered her disciple. If this got out, it would be incredibly embarrassing. Beck, clutching his wound, seemed to recall something terrifying and spoke with some hysteria. These goblins are very unusual. Each one is as strong as a big variant. Hearing this, the Sword Saintess looked to the side. Indeed, she saw the bodies of the two, each one as strong as a big variant. I'll slaughter every goblin tribe in the surrounding enchanted forests. At this moment, she was enraged. Wild sword energy swirled around her. Every step she took left spiderweb-like cracks on the charred ground. At this time, a resident crouching in fear on the ground spoke up. Saintess, are you leaving? What will we do if you leave? Yes, Saintess, if those evil dragons come back, what will we do? There might still be goblin remnants. Many residents, trembling and crouching on the ground, were full of fear. Hearing this, the anger of the sword Saintess began to subside. Eventually, she calmed down and returned to her usual self. You are right, I am the blade of the people, I cannot leave you, the sword Saintess said firmly. If she left, the residents of Bright Town would indeed likely suffer another attack. She herself also needed to recover after using an ultimate sword skill which had drained her greatly. Back already, and you actually caught 2 humans. In the cage, Leah was shocked, unable to believe they had really done it. Not only had they intruded into human territory, but they had also captured humans. Who could have thought that this was a goblin tribe without even a single major variant? Loader was still defiant at this moment, just a bunch of lowly goblins. Once I recover a bit of strength. What? Seeing the scene in the tribe, he was stunned. Elves. These goblins had actually captured so many elves. Even they dared not provoke the elf tribes. Oh no, this tribe might have a hero variant. At this moment, Loader could no longer remain defiant. If there was a hero variant goblin, he probably wouldn't survive until the sword Saintess came to rescue him. Ifraya, have you recovered a bit? Loader and Ifraya were thrown beside a rock, and he asked cautiously. Ifraya shook her head. This poison is too strong. Even though I have a holy constitution, it will take a long time to dispel it, but it's almost done. However, at this time, Lin Tian walked over with a cold, wicked smile. You seem to be recovering soon. He then bit Ifraya on the chest, injecting more poison. She moaned in pain. Stop it. Damn you, Loader shouted in fury. Upon hearing this, a second-generation goblin angrily rushed over and slapped him hard. Don't shout at the boss. Humiliated by a goblin. His teeth nearly shattered from clenching, but he could only endure it. You must be a highly intelligent goblin, right? Haven't you thought about the consequences of capturing us? You should have seen the power of the human sword Saintess. Of course, I am aware. The sword Saintess. She is also my prey. Just not the right time yet, Lin Tian said. Although he appeared calm, he was thinking about how to deal with these 2 beasts. 2 human-faced, beast-hearted animals. He certainly wouldn't kill them. Back then, they hadn't had the heart to kill Lin Tian. So, he would repay them 100-fold. Hearing Lin Tian refer to the sword Saintess as prey, Loader found it amusing. Just you lot. The sword Saintess could kill you all with a single slash. Now, I will ask, and you will answer. If you say the wrong thing or too much, I can't guarantee you won't lose something. Lin Tian stomped on Loader's head. Loader gritted his teeth in anger, almost looking like he wanted to eat someone. Let me ask you, do you enjoy secretly imprisoning and torturing goblins? Lin Tian asked coldly. Loader's body stiffened slightly. What? Suddenly, the cold light of claws flashed, tearing off his ear. Blood spurted onto Ifraya next to him, scaring her to the brink of tears. I don't. You beast. Are you crazy? Loader shouted through the intense pain, but inside, he was trembling. Only their team knew about such things, so how did a goblin know? Could it be that this goblin had been watching them all along? Stop. I'll talk. I indeed did those things, but so what? You goblins also like to torture humans, even eat people, Loader said fearfully. Hearing this, Lin Tian laughed wickedly. You're right, but I'm a goblin. Indeed, from a moral standpoint, Lin Tian had nothing to be ashamed of. But that was human morality. Now, Lin Tian no longer had human morals, only goblin morals, which meant no morals. Lin Tian's gaze finally turned to the white-robed nun on the ground. At first, he had thought she was a good person, but she turned out to be the most disgusting and perverted. She had castrated him, then used magic to heal, and castrated him again. A beast among beasts. Seeing Lin Tian getting closer, Ifraya trembled in fear. A human nun, so beautiful. Seeing this, the other goblins cheered in excitement. How dare you? Suddenly, Loader's hysterical roar echoed. His forehead veins bulged. He almost used all his strength to scream, spitting saliva everywhere. Lin Tian's mouth slowly curved into a smile. His purpose was to show it to Loader. He began to lay his hands on the white-robed nun. Loader trembled with rage, suddenly becoming calm. I beg you, let her go. I promise not to trouble you. I can even support you, give you a status in the Lionheart Empire. How about it? I swear by the Stantmont family name to God. This condition, if offered at their first meeting, Lin Tian might have believed. But now, forget it. These 2 beasts could never be trusted. Then, he slowly, bit by bit, made Ifraya feel unprecedented sensations. In the distance, Leah and the others were peeking. This Lin Tian, could he have a grudge against humans? What he's doing seems very vengeful. Since they had been together for a long time, Lin Tian had told her his real name. I heard the boss mention before that he wanted to take revenge on humans, so it seems so, Gabu Yu said. Cassandra, however, responded with irritation. Goblins are just goblins. Evil, filthy, that's their nature. Of course, Gabu Yu is an exception. Cassandra, child, I believe Lin Tian is different. Although we are imprisoned, apart from not being able to move freely, we don't have to worry about anything else. Leah was now completely taken by Lin Tian. The main reason was that every time they mated, she could experience sensations beyond what elves could provide. Previously, even 2 or 3 elves at a time were not enough for her. Now, a single Lin Tian was enough to completely satisfy her. She had fallen in love with that feeling. Boss, we're back. The surrounding monsters have been killed, but fortunately, everyone has basically evolved into big variants. At this moment, from a distance came the voices of Gabu Tian and the others. A group of strangely shaped goblins slowly approached. The reason they were called strange was that there were many branches of big variants, not just goblin warriors. Lin Tian's eyes lit up, very satisfied. With this, they could go and crush the Bloodfang tribe, capture their leader, and create the 3rd generation of goblins. 3rd generation goblins needed a goblin hero as a breeding stock to have a noticeable improvement. He gathered all the goblins and asked, Gabu Yu, Leah, Gabu Tian, and you all, what do you think would be a good name for our tribe? The current members had become more intelligent, allowing for higher level communication. Gabu Yu thought for a moment, how about we call it the Mighty Tribe? Let's grow strong together. Hehe. Little you, you're too naive. Goblin tribes are usually named after their leader, Leah teased. Well, let's call it the Tianquang tribe. With that, the decision was made. Tianquang tribe. Tianquang tribe. Tianquang tribe. The goblins cheered, dancing and jumping around. It seemed that even after evolving, they couldn't shake off their silly habits. Lin Tian chose this name to make others believe that the tribe leaders were Gabu Tian and Gabu Quang. This way, he could stay safe. He also planned to primarily train these two, making them the main combat force. The next day during the day, Lin Tian set out alone to scout the Bloodfang tribe and gather information. This tribe had an excellent environment, built by a fish-rich river and surrounded by plains. Because it was easy to obtain food in the early stages, the tribe developed well. There were many huts, with at least 300 goblins, possibly more. There were always goblins on the watchtower scouting, and even patrol squads circling the camp. Lin Tian was amazed, saying, so cautious. Could it be? He was still thinking when suddenly a completely different goblin emerged from a large hut. Its tusks protruded, and its eyes were fierce and glaring. It held a bone hammer the size of a small car, seemingly made from the skull and spine of some creature. A hero variant. A giant hammer goblin. That bone hammer was even larger than its own body. Lin Tian then checked the guy's attribute panel. Warhammer Goblin, LV50. Race, Goblin. Profession, High-Tier Warrior. Titles, Monster Slayer, Goblin Hero, God's Blessing, Breeding Machine. Due to the lack of ironworking technology, its attributes weren't overly monstrous. The goblins of Lin Tian's Tianquang tribe all wore iron armor and wielded iron swords. Even though their base attributes weren't ideal, the difference between having equipment and not having it was significant. However, since they all lived in the same enchanted forest, the Warhammer goblins' skills were mostly the same. It doesn't seem too powerful. With an overall combat strength of 900, a dozen goblin warriors should be able to handle it, Lin Tian said. However, capturing it alive would be much more difficult. This guy had likely eaten the immune porcupine in the enchanted forest, giving it strong resistance to paralysis toxins. If only the white-robed nun Ifraya could be used by him, he could directly employ imprisonment-type holy magic. I'll think of a plan after returning, he decided. Having gathered enough information, Lin Tian left the western side of the forests. Upon returning to the tribe, the foolish Gabu Quang approached. Boss, according to your instructions, that human is no longer able. Lin Tian turned his head. He saw Ifraya lying on the ground, unconscious. As for Loader, his main ordeal hadn't even begun. But watching his goddess being tormented by goblins all day had driven him mad. Lin Tian slowly walked over and slapped Ifraya awake. Haha, are you in pain now? Suffering? Kill me. I want to atone before God, Ifraya said, waking up in a state of collapse. However, Lin Tian changed his approach. He brought warm water and began to clean Ifraya's wounds and filth. The boss is such a neat freak, haha. Gabu Quang laughed foolishly on the side. Ifraya thought Lin Tian was being kind, but she quickly realized the truth and resisted frantically. No, I was wrong. I'm going insane. It hurts so much. But Lin Tian looked genuinely heartbroken as he held Ifraya in his arms, comforting her like an elder. It's okay, it's okay. I won't let them hurt you anymore. Ifraya was stunned and then broke down, crying in Lin Tian's arms, venting her accumulated grievances and pain. In her eyes, everything had lost its color. She had prayed countless times for God to save her, but God never came. Only now did Lin Tian extend a helping hand. Lin Tian carried her to a large water tank and carefully washed her body. From now on, as long as I'm here, no other goblins will control you. I am your god, understand? He said, continuing his psychological manipulation while washing her. In her current state, Ifraya's mind was blank, making it the best time for psychological manipulation. Yes, I am a servant of God. I will stay by your side as long as you protect me, Ifraya said excitedly, like a kitten. Then he continued to strengthen his psychological manipulation and brainwashing. Soon, Ifraya became a devoted follower of Lin Tian, believing that as long as she stayed by his side, she would be safe. Nothing else mattered. My God, Ifraya is willing to give everything, she said, rubbing against Lin Tian's leg obediently. Seeing this, Leah and the others felt incredibly fortunate. They couldn't imagine becoming like that. It was worse than death. As for Loder, his true hell had begun. Gabu Quang and the others approached him with evil smiles. Humans are great. Even males have such delicate skin. You live longer than me, yet your skin is better. What are you doing? Hey, wait. Is this a mistake? Are you serious? That day, a new beast was born in the enchanted forest. Looking at Ifraya, Lin Tian asked, I want to see you use the Holy Light Cage skill. Now, she dared not disobey Lin Tian, fearing he would abandon her. Holy Light Cage? What is that? My lord, I don't know, Ifraya said, confused, having forgotten all human affairs. Lin Tian brought her the original magic book. After flipping through a few pages, she finally responded, Holy Light Cage. Is this it? As she spoke, her magic activated involuntarily, connecting with the magic book. Resonating with the magic book, a fist-sized golden halo flew out from the book. It transformed into a cross shape, embedding itself firmly into the ground. That's more like it. Lin Tian smiled with satisfaction. With this move, dealing with that giant hammer goblin shouldn't be a problem. Gabu Quang and the others had lost interest. Loder finally had a chance to catch his breath, feeling worse than death. If he weren't waiting for the Sword Saintess and the Imperial family to rescue him, he would have bitten his tongue and killed himself already. Ifraya, have you recovered? Quickly kill that goblin. Use magic to heal my body. Hurry, Loder almost shouted, trembling all over, his eyes wide open and bloodshot. But Ifraya only glanced at him, as if she didn't recognize him, then curled up by Lin Tian's feet. What is going on? Loder's breath trembled, unable to believe the scene before him. Ifraya, a holy nun, had actually become a goblin's dog. It was simply absurd. Lin Tian looked at him and sneered, what else? She has willingly submitted to me, and has become my dog. You're seeking death. Do you know what you've done? Ifraya is the daughter of the Holy Church's bishop, chosen to serve God, the child of the Holy Mother. You have no idea what you've done. Loder didn't know whether to laugh or be angry. Ifraya's status was even higher than his, otherwise he would have taken action long ago. But he only dared to pursue her, not to be forceful, because she represented the gods. Even if she was defiled by goblins, it could be understood. After all, goblins were goblins. But now, a goblin had tamed God's servant into his personal item, obedient and docile. This was provoking the gods, provoking God. This was the prelude to a war between monsters and gods. The church would never let this go. The Lionheart Empire, and even this continent, would be turned upside down. Your actions will undoubtedly lead to the complete extinction of goblins from this world. Loder laughed again and said, Lin Tian roughly understood, why can't goblins have her? God is a god, don't goblins have gods too? A lowly monster like you dare compare with the church's gods. Your existence is just to be slaughtered. Loder spat fiercely, agitated. Lin Tian nodded slowly, I see. With that, Gabu Quang and the others got back to work. Loder was shaking with anger and fear. Beasts. Damn beasts. When things were settled, Lin Tian began to gather the goblins and prepare their weapons. It was time to take on the Bloodfang tribe. At this moment, inside the Bloodfang tribe, Boss, we've cleared out all the surrounding goblin tribes and caves. A goblin priest reported. The giant hammer goblin nodded in satisfaction. Very good. This way, our Bloodfang tribe can dominate the enchanted forest to the west. But I discovered they have a lot of ironware, and they even keep elves. Immediately, the giant hammer goblin sat up. Elves? We should find an opportunity to raid and destroy their tribe and seize the elves. The priest sneered. Goblins would also guard against each other. It was better to eliminate rivals early to prevent them from growing stronger. Boss, there's a goblin outside who wants to talk to us. Suddenly, a shout broke the tranquility of the Bloodfang tribe. The visitor outside was Lin Tian. The giant hammer goblin stormed out, wielding his massive hammer. He sneered, a low-level goblin. Just kill it. Bloodfang leader, I know you're a hero-tier goblin, with intelligence close to that of a human, so I've come to talk to you. Lin Tian said. The Bloodfang leader was slightly taken aback. A mutant variant. He could sense that Lin Tian was definitely not an ordinary goblin, hence the assumption. No, I'm just a bit smarter. Besides, I'm the leader of the Tianquang tribe to the south, the one you mentioned that keeps elves. Lin Tian squinted his eyes slightly as he spoke. Upon hearing this, the giant hammer goblin burst into laughter. Bloodfang leader, I'm actually here to propose cooperation. If you join us, you can have elves and even humans to mate with. But the condition is that only you can join, Lin Tian said seriously, staring directly at him. The giant hammer goblin was stunned, then put down his bone hammer. His massive body, like a small mountain, approached Lin Tian. He reached out and grabbed Lin Tian. Fool, I'll kill you, and those elves will be mine, he said, ready to crush Lin Tian. Goblins had no concept of not killing messengers. They would kill any they could. However, the next second, the giant hammer goblin's fingers were cleanly severed. Blood gushed out. Damn it, kill him, the giant hammer goblin roared, retreating in pain. With the command, all the goblins of the Bloodfang tribe rushed out, but they were all naked and unarmored. Their weapons were merely stones and wooden clubs. In the next second, thunderous, rhythmic footsteps resounded from the dark forest. The Bloodfang priest was stunned. Whoever wanted to fight could go ahead. He turned to flee. But as he reached the edge of the grassland, a sharp blade pierced his chest. The assailant was Gabu Tian, leading a group of goblin assassins. In the dark, they were almost invisible, even with Goblin's night vision. However, night stealth only worked at night, not during the day. And the duration of night stealth was only 30 seconds, used only at crucial moments. This was such a moment. With Gabu Tian's command, all the goblin assassins entered stealth mode, infiltrating the Bloodfang tribe. At this moment, the giant hammer goblin was furious. Damn it, what good are so many goblin warriors? I'll smash them all. The giant hammer goblin raged, flailing his fists wildly. Seeing this, Gabu Tian shouted, the boss's task is done, retreat. At this moment, Lin Tian led Ifraya forward, commanding, use Holy Bible Cage to trap him. Yes, master. Immediately, Ifraya began chanting the Bible, the magic book flipping on its own. A light orb transformed into a cross, piercing through the giant hammer goblin's body, trapping him in place, unable to move. Seizing this opportunity, Lin Tian ordered, where's the stuff? Pour it in his mouth. Then use the toxin skill to bite him. A group of goblin assassins appeared, swiftly pouring the collected toxin into the giant hammer goblin's mouth. Boom! A cloud of dust rose. The giant hammer goblin fell before Lin Tian, completely paralyzed. After dragging back this giant hammer goblin, he would immediately take control of it. Severing the tendons in its hands and feet would make it completely lose the ability to resist, ensuring it peacefully became a breeding goblin. Isn't it too big? Lin Tian, my children won't be able to handle it. Upon hearing Lin Tian's arrangement, Leah felt scared and quickly discussed it with him. Indeed, with the size of the giant hammer goblin, the petite elves might not match. Then she said, then artificial insemination will do. Gabu Yu, I'll teach you, just help out when the time comes. Is that even possible? After a series of indescribable procedures, Gabu Yu felt her worldview was shattered. Where are you going again? Don't take risks. Don't worry, I won't die, and even if I do, it's no big deal, Lin Tian said calmly. Gabu Yu and the others listened to him without any objections. Time was tight, and he started traveling at full speed. The next day, he arrived at the seaside. The golden beach, sunshine, and the melody of the waves made him feel cheerful. Across the sea, what's the most convenient way to get there? Lin Tian pondered. Indeed, he was going to Dragon Island. At first, he thought about getting a boat and sailing over, but with a distance of over 100 kilometers, it would take at least 10 days to half a month by boat. After some research, the fastest way was to lure a dragon. Directly attracting a dragon from Dragon Island was the most convenient. Then, he simply looted a few surrounding villages, capturing a dozen or so cows and sheep. They weighed over 1,000 pounds. Then he bled them, tied the meat together, and piled it on the beach. Lin Tian hid inside the pile. The smell of blood was highly attractive to dragons during their breeding season. To gather the nutrients needed for reproduction, they would collect a large amount of food. Lin Tian stared at the dragon through the gaps in the meat. It was too beautiful. Dragons, to men, were irresistible. Riding one in flight was a dream come true. Through a gap, looking at the endless ocean, Lin Tian couldn't help but marvel at how strange and wonderful this world was. He didn't even know how big it was, and there were gods and such. It seemed the humans in this world firmly believed in them. As he was lost in thought, he finally saw a small black dot appear on the distant horizon. It grew larger and larger until it was fully visible. This is Dragon Island. It looks pretty nice. Lin Tian was somewhat surprised. It was different from the imagined volcanoes, lava, and obsidian. The dragon carrying Lin Tian arrived at the cliff pit, directly throwing the meat in front of the purple gold dragon mother, then left indifferently. Lin Tian quickly crawled out of the meat. Afraid that the dragon mother would swallow the meat in one gulp, Lin Tian would be done for. Where did this little bug come from? At this moment, the purple gold dragon mother spoke. To her, Lin Tian was indeed a tiny bug that could be crushed to death. No different from humans looking at ants. The dragon's nose began to inhale, intending to blow Lin Tian away. Wait, it's me, the goblin leader who attacked Bright Town last time. After a long look, the purple gold dragon mother spoke again. It doesn't seem like you're lying, so what do you want? How about we join forces? Considering our surprise attack helped you escape last time. Lin Tian spoke with a serious expression. The purple gold dragon mother's pupils contracted again, scrutinizing him. You, a low-level goblin with slightly higher intelligence, dare to talk about cooperation with me. Although you did help me last time, it doesn't mean I owe you. Her massive body began to change, using the skill humanoid transformation. She reverted to a human form over 2 meters tall, extremely captivating and beautiful. Her figure was impeccable, like a beautiful woman in a tight-fitting uniform. Lin Tian calmed down and explained, it's simple, just have you and your dragons harass around Bright Town daily. Harass? Do you know how crazy that woman is? She has already requested aid from the human capital. If we keep harassing, Dragon Island might not have a single dragon left. You just need to stay far away and let them see that there are dragons around Bright Town. The purpose of this move was simple. It was to keep the Sword Saintess and the incoming human reinforcements occupied. So, we do the harassing, but what about you guys? Lin Tian thought for a moment and said they needed to create a large number of hero-level goblins to fight against Bright Town. After saying this, the purple gold dragon mother also weighed the pros and cons. Generally speaking, she wouldn't lose any more dragons, and the battles would be fought by goblins later. Finally, her eyes lit up with satisfaction. Alright, let's join forces then. After an exhilarating journey, he finally arrived at the enchanted forests. Alert! Gabu Tian of the Tianquang tribe shouted, his heart pounding as he watched the huge figure swooping through the sky. Leah was equally shocked. A dragon. It's a dragon. Why is it here? A wyvern. Has something happened in Bright Town? Loader also asked in confusion. Loader struggled desperately. Let me go. If it breathes dragon fire, we're all dead. At this moment, they heard Lin Tian's voice. Everyone, calm down. It's me, I'm back. The wyvern slowly descended, landing in a haystack at the edge of the tribe. Lin Tian got down and gently soothed it. Rest here for now, don't wander off. The wyvern snorted as if agreeing. This is impossible. A trash goblin can actually ride a dragon. Loader's eyes almost popped out. He'd rather believe he was dead than accept what he was seeing. These tamers were rare throughout the empire, and dragon tamers were even rarer. Yet now a low-level goblin had ridden a dragon back. If he had a stick, Loader would have knocked himself out. Seeing this, Gabu Yu and the others breathed a sigh of relief. Long live the boss. So cool. This guy, is he really a goblin? Leah couldn't help but smile bitterly. Her heart had almost jumped out just now. Gabu Tian and Gabu Quang were so excited, waving their arms and shouting. A rapid clatter of hooves sounded outside the town. The Sword Saintess's body moved slightly but then resumed its position. She lightly leapt down from the bell tower, over 10 meters high, and quickly dashed to the city wall to greet the approaching group. The Imperial Knights. All of them were elite warriors carefully cultivated by the Imperial family. There were 15 of them in total, which, compared to an adventurer team, was equivalent to a diamond-level force. They were divided into 3 parts, the Silver Blade Knights and the Battle Roar Knights. Each of these 2 teams had 7 members. The remaining one was the Death Knight, Kasimov. Even Kasimov is here. Looks like things are getting interesting. The Sword Saintess spoke softly. Upon seeing her, the members of the Knight teams took off their helmets and bowed deeply. Sword Saintess, our task is to slay the dragon and then wipe out those goblins. I understand. Give me 3 days, and I'll slaughter all the goblin tribes in the surrounding enchanted forest. In the following days, the purple gold dragon mother continued to harass Bright Town, putting immense pressure on them. Meanwhile, the Silver Blade Knights rode their warhorses into the nearby enchanted forest, starting to cleanse and inspect the goblin tribes. They slaughtered any goblins they encountered, doing their best to find Loader. Life simulation system is starting. Current scenario, cultivating 3rd generation goblins. After ambushing Bright Town and capturing the hero variant, you achieved decent results. You took Ifraya and Gabuyu into the enchanted forest to level up. You reached level 50, Gabuyu reached level 60, and Ifraya reached level 45. Option 1. Return to the tribe and start planning the next steps. It's too dangerous to stay outside any longer. Rating 0. Option 2. Your strength is still insufficient. Continue leveling up. Rating 10. Option 3. Level up to 100 to challenge the Sword Saintess one-on-one. Rating 1000. Seeing these outrageous options, Lin Tian was amused. Challenge the Sword Saintess one-on-one. Even if he reached level 100, it wouldn't be possible. After all, goblins were low-level monsters with limited strength, unless he evolved into a high-level variant, but even then, it wouldn't guarantee a win against that crazy woman. It was better to use his brain. Time had passed, and it was almost time to check on the progress of the 3rd generation goblins. So, he chose option 1, returning to the tribe. Then he interrupted the life simulation, directly skipping a month ahead. Summary: this enchanted forest can no longer provide enough experience. Leveling up is slow. Rating 20 points. Reward: life points x 20. This life simulation is complete, with a time progression of 1 month. He first checked his attribute panel. He was indeed level 50, health 850, strength 270, defense 300. Overall combat power was only 900. So weak. His level had been quickly raised, but his combat ability hadn't caught up, resulting in an overall rating of only 900. I don't know why, but only these 3 goblins survived. All the others were stillborn or died shortly after birth, Leah said, her eyes full of sorrow, as if she were looking at her own children. Lin Tian, though still unsure, comforted her first. I see. Thank you for your hard work, Leah. Disgusting goblins, you still think you can raise powerful offspring. What brainless fools. Loader mocked at this moment. Lin Tian narrowed his eyes slightly and asked, it seems you know why. Loader snorted coldly. The higher the tier of the goblin, the harder it is for its offspring to survive. If it were as easy as you think, goblins would have already taken over the world with their breeding capabilities. So that's how it is. So you knew this from the start but kept quiet, causing my elf ladies to suffer needlessly. Lin Tian's expression grew increasingly cold and frightening. He turned to signal Gabu Quang and the others. Loader suddenly raised his head, his face twisted with rage. Goodbye. Enjoy your time. You. Get away. Disgusting beasts. Don't touch me. Don't kiss me. Oh, mother. I was wrong. I don't want to be with a disgusting male goblin. Follow the boss's orders and let me bear your children. In the hut, instead of screams, there were the sounds of a man's embarrassed and angry voice. Currently, averaging 3 surviving per month would yield only about 30 in a year. 30 hero-tier goblins were still not enough to fight against the Sword Saintess and her allies, with no chance of victory. There was only one solution: thoroughly evolve this batch into hero-tier goblins, and the dragon they brought would be the best source of potential. Line up. Today the boss lets you play with something special. Lin Tian walked to the resting wyvern, stroking her smooth skin. Good girl, all this food is for you. Enjoy. Then, several goblins brought a large amount of wild boar, deer, and even magical beasts. It seemed that not only the purple gold dragon mother but other dragons were also in their breeding season. The other goblins were invigorated, extremely excited. It was as if they had gained dragon power within them, very thrilling. Long live the boss. Mating with a dragon is legendary in the goblin world. Hahaha, I have a feeling I can evolve. Indeed, it feels like I can evolve into something big soon. Banging a dragon is crazy. Immediately, Lin Tian needed to enhance his strength, otherwise, facing a group of hero-level goblins, he might not be able to establish his authority. System, open the system store. Over this period, he had accumulated nearly 200 life points, which could be obtained not only through the life simulation. Gaining new achievement titles also increased life points. The best choice, which also suited Lin Tian's wallet, was the elemental hand crossbow. Small in size, it could be equipped, though a bit expensive, but no need to look at more expensive ones. The key was its long-range attack, very suitable for stealthy actions. He clicked to exchange. Immediately, the elemental hand crossbow appeared in the system warehouse. He could retrieve it anytime he wanted. But Lin Tian didn't hurry and instead checked the skills section. This section mainly had high-tier skills. He had 100 life points left. He could barely exchange for a high-tier one, but super tier and above were out of the question. In his hand, he now held the elemental hand crossbow. He then equipped it on his left hand. It was about 30 centimeters long, very small, resembling a standard hand crossbow. Let's find a target. How about that guy? Lin Tian locked his gaze on the bound loader, raised his left hand, and surprisingly noticed a targeting icon. Just like in a shooting game. Aim, shoot. After practicing for a while, he roughly understood the elemental hand crossbow's capabilities. Its range was 300 meters, not very far, but extremely accurate. It could store up to 50 shots, which could be evenly distributed among elements, 10 shots each or more for a specific element. Without access to more elements, he primarily stored poison elements. At the same time, the Silver Blade Knight Regiment members were searching all over the enchanted forest. The female member was constantly shouting for help, hoping to attract the goblin's attention. Captain, there's movement over there. In the forest center, a third-tier demonic beast, a giant-eyed spider, was wrapping up its freshly caught prey in silk. The Silver Blade captain was startled. Spider. I fear spiders the most. You guys handle it quickly. Screech. The spear pinned the spider to a tree. The archer then shot an arrow into its head. Just like that, they killed a third-tier demonic beast in under 3 minutes, as expected of an elite knight regiment nurtured by the imperial family. After dealing with the spider, the Silver Blade captain and his team continued forward. Sure enough, the goblins were drawn by a woman's calls. The outcome was predictable. They easily wiped out a tribe of 200 goblins. These low-level, weak monsters don't interest me at all. Then why didn't you stay and slay the dragon earlier? I can handle a wyvern, but I don't have the skill to slay an ancient dragon. As they chatted and laughed, the Silver Blade Knight Regiment had already easily wiped out 5 or 6 goblin tribes. Suddenly, there was a rustle in the bushes ahead. A green-skinned big goblin walked out, bumping right into the Silver Blade Knight Regiment. For a moment, the air seemed to freeze as they looked at each other, speechless. Is this a goblin? A big goblin? Mage Antu was stunned. The goblin's sudden appearance had caught them off guard. The Silver Blade captain remarked, "Wow, look at this guy's muscle definition. It could rival that bald guy from the Battle Roar Regiment." At this moment, the big goblin was also dumbfounded. Roaming the enchanted forest for so long, searching for monsters to hunt, this was the first time he had encountered humans. A group of well-equipped humans. He quickly reacted, roaring. This immediately attracted the attention of other goblins nearby, who stopped what they were doing and looked towards the source of the sound. The Silver Blade captain added, "Looks like we've found the reason why there are no monsters around here. Is he the leader of these goblins? Quite intimidating." The Silver Blade captain tightened his grip on his longsword. The spearman took 2 spears from his horse, a hero variant with 4 arms. I'll take him on first. Mid-tier martial skill, Storm Spear. He immediately hurled a spear. It was a skill-powered attack. The spear whistled through the air, aimed straight at Gabu Kwang's head. Gabu Kwang caught the spear with one hand and threw it back. At that moment, the other goblins attacked simultaneously. They aimed to tear the humans apart. Impossible. Does a hero variant have such monstrous strength? Sweat began to bead on the Silver Blade captain's forehead. The archer in the distance fully drew her bow and activated a skill, mid-tier archery, power shot. If this hit the head, even a hero variant should fall. However, it required 30 seconds to charge, hence the name Power Shot. Unbeknownst to her, a small figure was slowly approaching. A sharp claw viciously pierced the female archer's abdomen, dragging her away swiftly. Damn it, Dimmy got ambushed. I told you there were goblin assassins. Why didn't you pay attention? Mage Antu's face showed panic. Captain, didn't you notice something's wrong? These goblins are unusually tough. It's been so long and we still haven't killed one. You think I don't know? This is insane. Let's go. We need to report back to the boss. The remaining goblins danced and cheered. It was almost becoming goblin corporate culture. In this battle, only 3 goblin warriors and 1 goblin assassin were lost. In the Tianquang tribe, Lin Tian watched the forest, hearing the commotion from afar but unclear about what happened. Seeing Gabu Tian and Gabu Kwang's appearance, he was pleasantly surprised. Oh, they captured so many people. Wait, isn't their presence a bit too intense? Lin Tian was happy but suddenly felt pressure. He almost forgot they had evolved into hero variants. Could they possibly turn on him? Lin Tian, are you still confident in being their leader? Seeing this, Leah spoke fearfully. Having finally gained Lin Tian's trust, if Lin Tian were killed, their fates would be obvious. Boss, we caught some humans. At this moment, Gabu Kwang triumphantly lifted the Silver Blade captain and waved happily. Lin Tian did not panic. Instead, he appeared very calm. Well done. I'll reward you later. Gabu Kuang laughed heartily. However, Gabu Tian, with his deep, hollow, pitch-black eyes, stared intently at Lin Tian without speaking. It seemed as if he was contemplating something. Tie those people up first. Don't kill them yet. I'd have some questions. But the goblins behind him did not move. All eyes turned to Gabu Kuang. Whoosh! A fist-sized fireball shot out on the spot. It was unavoidable. Even Loader couldn't believe it. You're terrifying. Killing a rare hero variant just like that. And he continued to kill 7 more big goblins. 4 of them were goblin assassins closely associated with Gabu Tian. From today on, anyone who wants to challenge me can come forward. But the only outcome for the loser is death. And the followers of the loser will also die. You, come here. You will be called Gabu Tian now. Boss, I am loyal to you. Please don't kill me. Who said I would kill you? Eat him, and those others too. Lin Tian commanded. Gabu Tian hesitated but then understood, starting to devour the former Gabu Tian's corpse. A level 50 corpse. Consuming it increased his experience significantly. Your Highness Loader, what kind of monster have you provoked? He feels more like a cunning strategist than Gabu Kuang. A monster that even an empire would fear. The Silver Blade Captain said in terror. This time, they were truly doomed. Lin Tian looked at them. These so-called Imperial Knights seemed quite weak. Relying on these useless people to save you. Loader, it seems you are too naive. Lin Tian couldn't help but mock. The Silver Blade Captain lowered his head, sighed, and said, Indeed, we were too naive. From our brief encounter, I realized you are an extremely terrifying opponent. If left unchecked, you will be a disaster for the Empire. But fortunately, the Sword Saintess will definitely come to deal with you. She is the Empire's holy sword of protection, and she will cut down you monsters. It's a pity, Sword Saintess, they ultimately couldn't hold on until you came to rescue. Reality differed from games and anime. Falling into enemy hands, 9 times out of 10, the result was death. Hope was just wishful thinking. This was the cruel reality. Lin Tian also admired the Silver Blade Captain, giving him a swift end, rest in peace. Then, he let the goblin eat him too. Concentrating resources whenever possible was the best way to cultivate new hero variants. The creatures in the enchanted forest had been killed clean, leaving no source of experience. This was Lin Tian's current biggest headache. The Battle Roar Captain was incredulous. Weren't they going to deal with goblins? How did they end up like this? Anyone would think they had gone to slay a dragon. The Sword Saintess said, I don't know either. I saw him fall from the sky and then faint. Soon, the spear-wielding man finally woke up, but he was still very weak. Everyone asked seriously what happened. Where are the others? How did you end up like this? Cough, cough, Sword Saintess, have you stayed up all night again? You really work hard. The spear-wielding man coughed, blood and clots pouring from his throat. The Sword Saintess quickly took out a high-level recovery potion, intending to heal him. But he refused, saying, My injuries are too severe, it's no use. Sword Saintess, you must go save the captain and the others. They were captured by a group of goblins, including 2 hero variants, dozens of elite goblins, probably from a super large tribe. Moreover, be very careful, these goblins are unusual. Each one is twice as strong as a normal goblin. Cough, cough. He coughed a few more times. The Battle Roar Captain frowned and said, A super large tribe. That doesn't make sense. 2 hero variants and dozens of elites shouldn't be able to capture them. They're just goblins. Hey, hold on. At this point, the spear-wielding man couldn't hold on any longer. His eyes rolled back, and he died a tragic death at dawn. Damn it. Let's go wipe out those damn low-level beasts. The Battle Roar Captain, furious, swung his double-bladed giant axe and was about to charge out. But the team members stopped him. Wait, Captain, didn't he just say? These goblins are unusual, we can't act rashly. To hell with that, I want to chop off all their heads and shove them up their asses. At this moment, the Sword Saintess spoke, Calm down, everyone. If you leave, I can't protect the residents from an invasion by 2 ancient dragons and a large group of wyverns. You should hurry back to the capital and bring more reinforcements. Then, I will personally slaughter those goblins and dragons. All you need to do is guard Bright Town. But, if we do that, won't the Silver Blade Knight Regiment be? The Battle Roar Captain still wanted to say something. A team member stopped him. Do you think they still have a chance of being alive? The condition of the man who returned proves it. Suddenly, a cold voice spoke. The speaker was Kasimov, the leader of the Death Knight Regiment, the only survivor of the Battle of Death Valley. His strength far exceeded that of the other leaders. The Sword Saintess looked at him and said, Are you sure you want to go alone? An entire knight regiment was defeated. In Death Valley, I faced 4 Titan warriors alone and survived. A group of goblins, even if I can't defeat them, they can't harm me. Kasimov said, taking off his pitch-black helmet. Everyone was shocked when they saw his true face. No hair, full of burn scars, crisscrossed with knife scars on his face. He looked like a terrifying monster. Unimaginable what kind of battles he had survived. Then, without wasting time, Kasimov mounted his horse and headed deep into the enchanted forest. Not far outside Bright Town, on a high mountain, Lin Tian was observing while riding a bipedal dragon. This strength is not bad, but thinking he can wipe us out alone, isn't that too naive? Upon returning to the tribe, he started thinking of ways to capture that guy. Level 60, not weak at all, and a big bundle of experience. If he devoured him, he'd be one step closer to cultivating a new hero variant. Do you know a man named Kasimov? He's here, coming to die. Lin Tian walked up to Loader and said, I didn't expect him to come too. Finally, we are saved. You will all die. He is someone who has taken down several Titan warriors alone. What are Titan warriors? Lin Tian asked in confusion. Loader did not hold back and explained, they are special warriors cultivated by an enemy nation using Titan genes. Their physical qualities are extremely strong, capable of tearing apart 5th-tier monsters with their bare hands. In that case, Kasimov indeed has some skills. Lin Tian pondered. He couldn't fall into that guy's hands and had to minimize casualties. Ideally, 0 casualties. Every goblin in this tribe had been painstakingly nurtured. Loader kept laughing proudly on the side, incessantly saying that they were all doomed and would all die. Lin Tian suddenly looked at him coldly. I don't even know how to deal with you right now. At this moment, sending the goblins to deal with him would actually delight him. Physical torture, he was already numb to it, barely feeling any pain. It seems true. The entire enchanted forest is devoid of monsters, very unusual. Kasimov scanned the surroundings and said. Finally, he saw the place where the Silver Blade Captain and others had fought last night, with obvious battle marks. Getting closer, he quickly accelerated, riding his horse at full speed. At that moment, a person suddenly appeared in front of him, and the face seemed somewhat familiar. Help me, Kasimov. It was Ifraya. Seeing him, she immediately ran over. Kasimov dismounted swiftly. You are the white-robed nun Ifraya. You didn't die. Where is Lord Loader? He is dead. Take me away from here quickly. I need to return to the order. Boo-hoo. Ifraya threw herself into Kasimov's arms, crying. Seeing her appearance and reaction, he couldn't imagine what horrific things she had endured with the goblins, especially since she was a sacred nun, chosen as a servant of God. Stay here and don't move. I'll go check the situation. If I don't return for a long time, just run straight ahead. Okay, please hurry, Ifraya pleaded. As Kasimov turned around, a holy light suddenly shone. Holy Bible cage. In an instant, he was trapped in a crucifix. Seeing this, Kasimov was shocked. Nun, what are you doing? Holy light impact. It wasn't over yet. Ifraya attacked again. This was Lin Tian's order. Sustained attacks to exhaust Kasimov's strength. While the two fought fiercely, a figure quietly approached. It seems I have to get rough with you. Then, he ignited a black flame in his left hand, casting a high-tier spell, Grim Reaper's Harvest. It could seize souls, causing them to pass out. Lin Tian watched from afar, sensing something was wrong. If this continued, Ifraya would be taken away. He would rather let her die than be captured. Kasimov felt dizzy and confused. His hands were empty, not knowing what to do. His longsword appeared in Lin Tian's hands. Not bad, this sword. I'll give it to Gabu Quang. Lin Tian examined it, then threw it dozens of meters away, embedding it into a tree trunk. Kasimov's heart pounded, his expression worse than if he had eaten. Impossible. What happened? My sword. How did it get into your hands? This was Lin Tian's skill, no blade capture. When activated once, it could be used 3 times consecutively to withstand 3 physical attacks. If used all at once, it had a chance to seize the opponent's weapon. Severely injured and weaponless, he knew his end was near. After being savagely torn by Gabu Tian, he completely lost the ability to resist. Lin Tian smiled coldly, pleased. Finally, the matter was resolved. Fortunately, these guys came one by one like the Calabash brothers rescuing their grandpa. If they had come together, it would have been tough to handle. Well done, I will reward you well. This time, she had indeed played a role. Pulling at Lin Tian's ragged clothes, Noble master, I want my reward now. I am already your slave, let me serve you. Go away, we'll talk later. Lin Tian impatiently kicked her fair and tender face. Then he retrieved the black longsword and had Gabu Tian drag the corpse back to the tribe. When Kasimov's body was thrown in the middle of the tribe, the goblins cheered again. Loader's face was filled with disbelief, another one dead. That sword saintess bitch. Why hasn't she come yet for those damned Bright Town riffraff? Oh, is this how you slander your master? I think she's quite great, very righteous, Lin Tian said, scrutinizing him. Then he had the previous goblin come to devour the corpse. It leveled up to 49, almost evolving into a hero variant, and received the name from Lin Tian, Gabu Shan. This guy was quite docile, considered kind in this goblin tribe. Encountering flowers, grass, or small insects, he wouldn't crush them but play with them instead. Usually, he preferred to be alone. However, he wasn't truly kind. He was a truly dark, evil, and even perverted goblin. Catching prey, he would torment it to death bit by bit. With small insects, he enjoyed making them fight to the death, watching them kill each other. Then he ate them all. Lin Tian wanted to see if he would mutate into a rare existence if he evolved into a hero variant. Gabu Shan. Thank you, boss. Thank you, boss. I have a name now. Gabu Shan danced with joy, celebrating. Calabash Brothers, a Chinese anime reference. The next day, in Bright Town, every day was lived in constant fear. The purple gold dragon mother would come to harass at irregular intervals, keeping everyone on edge, unable to relax for even a moment. Damn it, what kind of goblin tribe is this? One after another, they die. Why do I feel like we're caught in a deadly stratagem? All of you leave here and go to the capital to request reinforcements. It's the only way. We are in a very unfavorable situation. On one side, there was the dragon's restraint, on the other, the goblin threat. More reinforcements were needed to solve all the problems at once. If we do that, wouldn't we be deserters? We've always been at the forefront of every mission. You go for reinforcements, I'll deal with those goblins myself. Let's go, Captain. Time waits for no one, we must hurry to the capital. Dragged and pulled, the Battle Roar Regiment leader finally relented. But on the way back to the capital, he still grumbled. The Battle Roar Regiment members were galloping swiftly. These horses were first-tier magic beasts, carnivorous horses, resembling ordinary horses but with sharp teeth, eating only meat. The advantage of taming them was their strong endurance, able to run hundreds of kilometers a day. Wait, stop. Suddenly, the Battle Roar Regiment leader's anxious voice sounded, and everyone pulled on the reins, stopping the galloping horses. They saw that the wooden bridge over the cliff ahead had turned into a pile of charcoal. It seemed that a light touch would cause the whole bridge to crumble. The crowd shouted angrily, but only the echoes in the valley answered. No one came forward to admit it. With the bridge destroyed, their expressions were as if they had eaten something foul. How long would this delay them? Without a second thought, the Battle Roar Regiment leader immediately ordered, "Everyone, chop down trees and build a bridge. We can't waste any time." Upon hearing this, everyone quickly dismounted and started working. However, building a 100-meter-long wooden bridge was no easy task. They could get across easily, but without horses, walking to the capital would take so long that Bright Town's people would be long dead. The group plunged into busy work. Some chopped trees, others split planks, and others drew up structural plans. They also sent someone back to get ropes and chains. The estimated time needed was 1 day. At this moment, in the Tianquan tribe, Lin Tian had gathered all the goblins again. We're going to do something big soon. We'll act in 2 groups. If you do well, there will be great rewards. If not, we all might die. Gabu Tian, you take 50 goblins and carefully hide in the dense forest outside Bright Town. When you see a woman in platinum armor leave Bright Town, take all the goblins and rush in. Lin Tian then looked at Gabu Quang. You come with me. We'll intercept a night group led by a bald guy. The Battle Roar Regiment was racing against time, and so was Lin Tian. Let's go, time waits for no one. As they cautiously walked onto the wooden bridge, the sky suddenly darkened as if the sun had been blocked. However, it was just a fleeting moment. Immediately, the Battle Roar Regiment leader's expression changed. This isn't good. Looking ahead, a dragon appeared, flapping its enormous wings and stirring up a storm. It slowly landed on the other side of the bridge. It was Lin Tian. Why is there a dragon here? Wait, look quickly at the dragon's back. It's a goblin. Goblins can ride dragons. How is this possible? The leader of the Battle Roar Regiment couldn't help but exclaim. This kind of thing was unprecedented. It was probably the first time in history that goblins had been seen riding dragons. Lin Tian looked at them coldly and couldn't help but praise. Hee, you guys are really quick. Repairing the bridge so fast. Not bad, not bad. After saying this, he even clapped his hands. You're the goblin who captured Lord Loader, right? I'll kill. Before he could finish speaking, his words got stuck in his throat, because that wyvern had opened its huge mouth, with a blazing fire gathering inside. Dragon Flame. At Lin Tian's command, the dragon immediately spewed out a huge flame, spraying towards the Battle Roar Regiment members. Facing the incoming sea of fire, they even abandoned their horses and ran back. Everyone stumbled and fell, but at least they weren't turned into roast duck. When they turned and saw the newly built wooden bridge behind them, they were all furious, angrily drawing their weapons. After going through all kinds of hardships to build the bridge, it was now charred again. Damned bastard. Get him, slay the dragon, capture that goblin and torture him to death. Each of them was filled with extreme hatred, wanting to retaliate. Suddenly, a rhythmic rumbling sound came from behind. Everyone felt a tightness in their hearts. The Battle Roar captain quickly turned around, only to find that a large number of goblins had surrounded them at some point. Everyone understood and knew they were in dire straits. After all, even the Silver Blade Regiment was annihilated, and Kasimov was dead. They had no absolute confidence in handling this. That tall one must be the goblin hero. I'll take care of him. Bane, you're an assassin. Fast, go find the Sword Saintess. Seeing him trying to escape, several lurking goblin assassins were about to take action. Lin Tian's voice rang out, let him go. Focus on dealing with the rest. At this moment, the Battle Roar captain let out a powerful, shocking roar. This increased his attribute values and attack power significantly. However, Gabu Quang was not to be outdone, roaring as well, though it had no effect. Holding a black iron longsword, he slashed forward. A piercing metallic clash erupted immediately, and a strong gust of wind. The surrounding shrubs were blown to one side, giving them a side-swept hairstyle. The Battle Roar captain's face changed slightly. You actually have similar strength to me. This sword, isn't it Kasimov's? It seems I was right. I like your axe. Give it to me. Across the bridge, Lin Tian's expression turned sinister. You can do anything. But why kill the goblins I painstakingly raised? Saying this, he slowly raised his left hand, adjusting the elemental hand crossbow to wind element. This was the power absorbed while riding the dragon. It was perfect for testing the effect on him. Since it was a sneak attack, he could charge it up. A wind sphere burst out instantly. The sound of breaking through the air was incessant. Commander, watch out. Unfortunately, even with a warning, it was too late. The Battle Roar captain wasn't a speed-type knight, and it was difficult to dodge with his large axe. Boom. The wind sphere exploded, sending him flying several meters away. Gabu Shan, you go first. Thank you, boss. Thank you. The grateful Gabu Shan knelt and ran to a corpse to feast. After finishing one, he still didn't level up, so he devoured the Battle Roar captain's body. The Sword Saintess had already arrived at the cliff. Seeing the tragic scene before her, she thought, am I too late? These goblins. Previously, her emotions had been calm, but now she couldn't endure any longer to suffer repeated losses at the hands of goblins. It was simply a disgrace to the name of the Sword Saintess. How could she face the previous Sword Saintess? Are there not even any corpses left? The Sword Saintess searched around, hoping to find someone near death who could be saved. But there was nothing left, only torn clothes and some blood-stained bones with tendons. It looked like they had been gnawed by wolves. Immediately, she quickly searched the surrounding area but found no clues. Goblins, goblins, why can't I even deal with a group of goblins? Time and time again. Swish. The Sword Saintess, overcome with anger, swung her sword furiously towards the cliff ahead. Sword Kai bombarded the rock face, sending dust flying everywhere. When the dust settled, the cliff had been shattered, with the rubble forming a new path. Suddenly, the Sword Saintess's aura condensed as she thought of something. Wait. No. Whoosh. She turned into a streak of white light, rushing back. With each step, she could leap more than 10 meters, moving so fast she became a blur. Only the rapid stomping of iron boots and the clinking of armor could be heard. This time, it took her only half an hour to reach the outskirts of Bright Town. The wretched cries inside nearly petrified her heart. The air ceased to flow, and everything fell silent. No, no, no. Don't do this to me, God. After a long time, the Sword Saintess trembled as she uttered these words. Reflected in her beautiful eyes were corpses, blood, and residents kneeling in agony. In that moment, her heart completely shattered. She struggled to her feet, trying to comfort the child clutching his father's body, only to be pushed away. Get away. Get away. You pretend to protect us every day, but where were you when my dad was dying? And he saved his milk for you people every day. You bad person. The Sword Saintess wanted to say something but couldn't utter a word. She wandered like a weak woman, devoid of any strength. Everywhere she looked, there were corpses and curses. The residents now blamed all their anger on her. The scolding around her felt like ghostly hands from hell, pulling her down. Deeper and deeper, so deep that she couldn't breathe. I'm sorry. Finally, after saying those words, the Sword Saintess collapsed. She lost consciousness. On a distant hill, the purple gold dragon mother in her human form watched everything, laughing proudly. That goblin? He really pulled it off. Human sword saintess. Undefeated legend. Defeated by a goblin? Ha ha ha. Looking at the unconscious sword saintess, she didn't even bother to finish her off. Just a pitiful stray dog. She then transformed into a giant dragon and flew away. I wonder when I'll see that little guy again. In the Tianquang tribe, Loader watched the bright town residents being brought back in large sacks, laughing maniacally. Good, good, good. Excellent, excellent. Loader raved. He was even happier than the goblins. By evening, Lin Tian and the others finally returned to the tribe. Well done, Gabu Tian. Nice work. Those human women locked in cages were the key to strengthening the tribe. Gabu Tian, you didn't encounter any problems on the way back, right? Gabu Tian explained the events clearly. They captured nearly 100 women and killed over 100 humans, leaving mostly the elderly and children in the town. Good, I believe that Sword Saintess will be completely broken by this, Lin Tian said with a smug smile. Facing such a strong opponent head-on was impossible, so he targeted her weak spot. It had become clear over time that the Sword Saintess was someone with an overwhelming sense of justice and responsibility. She didn't even come personally for revenge when the Silver Blades, Kasimov, and even Loader and Ifraya were captured. Wasn't that obvious enough? So Lin Tian came up with this plan. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother had been a great help. Otherwise, if those Imperial Knight regiments had arrived, the Tianquang tribe would have been exterminated long ago. On his way, he captured many cattle and sheep as a token of gratitude. When he reached the skies above Dragon Island, he saw the dragons still busy flying around, searching for food. Lin Tian flew directly to the Purple Gold Dragon Mother's nest. Long time no see. I heard about what you did yesterday, little one. It was truly satisfying. Haha, it was nothing. I just came to tell you that we need to continue harassing Bright Town for a while, and now we can get even closer. Lin Tian scratched his head, pretending to be very honest. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother stared at him as if pondering something. What reward should I give you? Flying around every day is quite tiring. I have something for you, look. Lin Tian quickly brought out the beef and mutton he had brought. However, the Purple Gold Dragon Mother seemed uninterested in that. Her cold dragon eyes unexpectedly showed a hint of flirtation. She extended her huge, red, tender dragon tongue and gave Lin Tian a deep kiss, enveloping him completely, covering him in saliva. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother tasted and savored for a moment. You smell delicious. The reward I want is you, how about that? Me, you must be joking. Lin Tian felt extremely embarrassed. Truly embarrassed. Of course I'm not joking. Didn't you make that other dragon pregnant? Lin Tian felt even more embarrassed. Let me explain, that was purely an accident. I won't get angry over such things, but if you refuse, I might really get angry. Lin Tian quickly said, that's not what I meant. I'm just a goblin, how could I match a dragon? Right. We ancient dragons have always revered the strong. I wanted to go back to the dragon clan this time to mate with a strong dragon and produce stronger offspring. But now that I have you, why should I go back, right? The voice of the Purple Gold Dragon Mother didn't sound like she was joking. It was serious, because she knew that goblins had no reproductive isolation and could produce offspring with any race. She also wanted to see what kind of offspring she could produce. Perhaps this would be the first hybrid of a dragon and a goblin in history, and it would surely be different. At this time, the remaining flying dragons on Dragon Island were attracted by the Purple Gold Dragon Mother's cries and came to see what was happening. They were all stunned by the scene and gathered to watch. The more they watched, the more interested they became. Hearing the other dragons discussing, the Purple Gold Dragon Mother was both ashamed and angry. What are you looking at? Go catch some meat for me. With that, the other dragons dispersed. Several hours passed in a flash. What is your name? You are truly amazing. Lin Tian shook his head. Good deeds should remain anonymous. I'm leaving now. He thought it would be impossible to mate, but it turned out to be easier than expected. Mainly because he was just too good, and he had gained a lot of attribute points for free, 500 health, 100 attack, and 100 defense. This was truly free. The Purple Gold Dragon Mother angrily said, what do you mean by anonymous? How will I tell my child who their father is? Just call me Lin Tian. That's right, Lin Tian. I'm off. Lin Tian rode his bipedal dragon and left Dragon Island. He had more important things to do. Watching him leave, the Purple Gold Dragon Mother showed a playful smile. A goblin. This race doesn't seem so bad. No, rather, he might lead the goblins to create a new world. After dismounting, he examined the captured residents. He then walked towards the cage holding Leah. Now, you are free. Those who wish to stay can stay, those who don't can leave. What? For a moment, not only Leah but even the other goblins were dumbfounded. So many elves just set free. You. Leah opened her red lips, wanting to say something. Lin Tian shrugged. I said I would grant you freedom. You are no longer of use to me, so you can go. She had been honest and had helped many times. Granting her freedom was no issue. Mother, let's go quickly. Leah stepped out, feeling a bit out of place. The feeling of regaining freedom made them cry with joy. However, they didn't rush to leave, as they had nowhere to go. After a long silence, Leah finally said, Cassandra, and all of you, if you want to leave, go back to the Myriad Forms forest and start over. I plan to stay. Lin Tian's eyes flickered slightly, not surprised, or rather, he had expected her to stay. Lin Tian, from our interactions, I can tell you are not an ordinary goblin. I am willing to follow you. May I stay in the tribe? Leah approached Lin Tian, her figure as voluptuous as ever. She then knelt on one knee, lowering her head, hoping to be accepted. Lin Tian looked at her and nodded. You are smart. Staying might be useful. If the other elves leave, I promise not to trouble them. Why are you staying behind? Let's leave together. We can rebuild our home. Cassandra, child, I find Lin Tian quite good, so. Leah spoke softly and gently, her face full of apology. Seeing her so resolute, Cassandra cried and hugged her. If Mother Dear isn't leaving, then I won't leave either. We'll all stay, only willing to follow Mother Dear. That's right. The Myriad Forms forest is gone. Our home has long been lost. The remaining elves also chose to stay, though a few decided to leave and quickly disappeared into the forest. All right, children, from now on, you will not follow me but Lin Tian, this goblin leader. The group of elves hesitated for a moment before kneeling before Lin Tian. Rest assured, since you are no longer my captives but my subordinates, I will ensure your safety. If anyone dares to touch you without consent, tell me, and I'll kill them. Lin Tian raised his voice intentionally, speaking to the other goblins. This reassured the elves. Then he had Gabu help choose a place to build shelters. They couldn't live in cages anymore. Although we've had unpleasant times, everything will pass, Leah said affectionately. Over these days, she had been drawn to Lin Tian's personality, and even more to his powerful mating ability. She couldn't understand why a goblin would have such strong charisma. During the time when the Sword Saintess was weakened, it was the best golden development period. They had to cultivate hero variants and third-generation goblins in large numbers. Otherwise, it would be troublesome when reinforcements arrived later. Gabu Quang grabbed a human. Boss, this human is too small for me right now. It seems so. Then artificial breeding it is, but it will still be tough on you. Lin Tian shrugged. However, this time artificial breeding was much easier because the elves had experience and could help. Lin Tian went to find Gabu Shan, that rascal. Despite spending so many resources and experience, he hadn't evolved. If he didn't slaughter him to feed others, he couldn't justify it to himself. While looking for him, he found Gabu Shan hiding in a corner, constantly scratching his body, even tearing off large chunks of skin. It was a bit creepy. Lin Tian sternly questioned, Gabu Shan, what are you doing? Boss, I feel really itchy, like something wants to come out. The sound of nails scraping flesh grew louder, and sticky, disgusting blood flowed everywhere from Gabu Shan's body. Finally, Gabu Shan scratched himself to death. He twitched a few times on the ground, then stopped moving. Did the evolution fail? How unlucky to encounter such a small probability. Just as they were about to drag his corpse away to feed it to the higher-level goblins, the body suddenly reacted. The sound of bones growing echoed, and they could see Gabu Shan's small body starting to grow larger. It grew to be about the size of a big goblin, approximately 1.67 meters tall. Surprisingly, a row of sharp bone spikes protruded from his back, and there were spikes on his shoulders and elbows as well. There were also spikes around his thighs. His chest had horizontally growing bones, almost as if his ribs were growing outside his skin. Additionally, a long segmented bony tail grew out, at least 3 meters long. Gabu Shan, LV50, race, mutant goblin. Profession, berserker. Title, revived from death. Mutated body, twisted and perverse, God's blessing. What the hell? This guy actually has such high overall combat power. If I hadn't gained more attributes from mating with the purple gold dragon mother, I might not have been able to beat him. Lin Tian exclaimed in surprise. Boss, I didn't die, and I've become really strong. Hahaha. Gabu Shan joyfully danced around. The nature of this goblin hadn't changed. Not bad, your strength is now second only to mine. I believe your intelligence has also grown. In the future, when mating, you should lend a hand more often, personally. Unexpectedly obtaining a mutant variant, who would need hero variants. However, it was predictable that the breeding probability of mutant variants would be even lower than that of hero variants. possibly producing none out of 100 attempts. Yes, boss. For now, Gabu Shan had no intention of challenging Lin Tian and obediently followed his orders. In 3 months, they had accumulated 153rd generation goblins, all of which could easily evolve into hero variants, with attributes much stronger than those evolved in the wild. Life was a bit too peaceful, and Lin Tian even wondered if the Lionheart Empire had given up on Bright Town. After all, it was a large town with the potential to expand into a city. Finally, a few days later, Lin Tian noticed a team entering Bright Town. Something's wrong. I'm 90% sure something's wrong, Lin Tian couldn't help but say. Because soon another group of people arrived, one after another. At least 100 people entered Bright Town in a day. And the key was, they were all adventurers. In this world, the badges of adventurer teams had specific divisions. They were bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, epic, legendary, mythic class, immortal class, and world class. Adventurers who earned a diamond badge were already among the elite, very capable. Lin Tian felt something was wrong and immediately decided to return to the tribe to lead everyone in relocating. They couldn't stay here. Boss, the new batch of goblins has basically grown up, but the resources in the forest are too scarce and everyone is almost starving. At this time, Leah came to report. Gabu Yu also spoke. The iron ore is almost exhausted, and many new goblins can't wear iron armor or wield weapons, creating a significant disparity in strength. Since that was the case, Lin Tian instructed everyone, pack your things. Today, right now, we are moving. The resources here are insufficient, and we must move to a resource-rich place to develop our bodies and minds. Of course, the main concern was fearing Bright Town's potential siege. If they all stayed here, it would be a disaster. Additionally, listen carefully. During migration, move quietly and steadily. Leah, Gabu Yu, you and the elves handle cleaning up our tracks, Lin Tian said. Having elves, who were meticulous stealth experts, clean up tracks was ideal. Lin Tian had already scouted a new place for survival, riding a dragon. A waterfall cave over 100 kilometers away. That cave was very deep and very large, complex, with many small and large caves. It was suspected to be a dungeon. Even with Gabu Kuang's size, many places were so high that he couldn't reach the top even if he jumped. They brought all their resources into the cave. Lin Tian had roughly planned it out. The cave was divided into 3 large interconnected chambers, each covering several thousand square meters, though not very even. There were many rugged rocks, stalactites, and crystals inside. One chamber was for living, one for breeding, and one for sleeping. There were also 4 or 5 medium-sized chambers for storing items and over a dozen small chambers. Lin Tian gathered all the goblins and elves in the living area. I have 3 things to say. 1. Gabu Tian, you will lead the goblin assassins for hunting. No one else is allowed to go out without my permission. 2. Every day, 2 goblins will patrol and stand guard at the cave entrance. Report any movement immediately, but don't leave the waterfall and expose yourselves. 3. Everyone in the cave must follow the rules. Don't let me catch anyone being careless. The penalty is death. Yes, boss. Long live the boss. We'll all listen to the boss. Bright Town. After months of silence, it finally saw new life. Hundreds of adventurers gathered, and the lively noise continued through the night. In the tavern, bang, someone took a big gulp and slammed the cup on the table. Ah, so refreshing. Hey, do you think the Sword Saintess can recover? I doubt it. The era of the Sword Saintess may have ended. If it were me lying flat in a room for months, I'd have gone crazy by now. Amidst the laughter, everyone couldn't help but show a look of pity. They had all come after hearing that the Sword Saintess was driven to collapse by a group of goblins. First, to see if the rumors about the Sword Saintess were true. Second, if it was true, they wanted to check out the goblin tribe that managed to defeat her. This event was world-shaking. It wasn't just the Lionheart Empire. People from other nations were also talking, mostly mocking. The dignified Sword Saintess, driven to collapse by goblins. It was like an adult being thrown by ants. Just a bunch of goblins. Leave it to us Blizzard heroes to handle. At this moment, several people clad in silver armor walked into the tavern. The diamond-colored badge hanging on their chest plates was particularly eye-catching. They were a diamond-ranked adventurer team. With an average level around 60, their strength unquestionable. Isn't Lord Cecil known for hunting high-level monsters? What brings you here to deal with goblins? The tavern owner asked while starting to pour drinks. Taking a sip from his glass, Cecil immediately passed it to someone beside him, clearly unaccustomed to such inferior wine. He then said, "It's because of my useless cousin. He got captured by goblins, so I plan to handle it personally." I see. The tavern owner felt a bit awkward. After all, that had been his best wine. However, he didn't mind too much since nobles certainly had different tastes. At this moment, an even more arrogant voice sounded from the entrance. "Ha, Cecil, you think you can handle it all by yourself? Did I come here for nothing then?" An old man with white hair slowly walked in. He leaned on a long red crystal staff, his long white beard matching his fully white hair. Wearing a gray wizard hat that looked extremely old and pointed, he made quite a peculiar sight. "What? The gray hat wizard? Grew. He's here too." The tavern erupted in excitement once more. This gray hat wizard was said to have been an evil wizard in the past, feared by many. That's why he was so audacious. But later on, for some unknown reason, he turned to good and established the Grey Hat Heroes. When he founded his group, they were immediately granted a diamond-level badge. Several gray-hatted wizards followed behind him. Cecil didn't get angry. Instead, he maintained his noble courtesy. "Master Gru, it's an honor to meet you. Cut the flattery. I'm broke, really broke. If you don't want me involved, pay up. 1,000 gold coins and I'll leave now." Though Gru looked old, his voice was strong and powerful. It was as if he had already decided the outcome. Cecil smiled wryly. 1,000 gold coins. That's no small sum, Master Gru. How about we negotiate? No negotiation. Not a coin less. If you don't have the money, I'll go to your father for it, Gru said firmly, looking like an old scoundrel with no respect for others. While they were arguing, a voice rang out from the corner of the tavern. How amusing. You think just because the Sword Saintess is lying low, you can put on a show. Don't forget, that cold-blooded woman is also in Bright Town this time. The cold-blooded woman. Who is that? Never heard of her. You idiot, you don't even know her. Epic-level adventurer. Lucy Lena. She leads the cold-blooded mercenaries. Damn, why are all these dangerous people showing up? I heard she'll kill good people for money. Several philanthropists have died by her hand. She might slit your throat. Shut up. The mention of her name silenced the entire tavern. No one dared to speak up. They feared falling victim to her stealth. From the corner, the man in the cloak spoke again. "Ha, a bunch of cowards calling yourselves adventurers. Go home and drink your milk. Oh, you are the wandering hero." Cecil recognized the man at this moment. He was also a diamond-ranked adventurer. He wandered the world, his real name unknown to anyone. The wandering hero looked surprised. "I didn't expect a noble like Lord Cecil to know the title of a street rat like me. I'm truly honored." The wandering hero spoke again. "Don't look at me like that. I have no intention of tussling with you, and I'm even less interested in goblins. Those creatures are disgusting." Then why did you come here?" Cecil asked, puzzled. Bright Town was quite a remote place in the Lionheart Empire, and it took considerable time to get here. The wandering hero chuckled lightly. "Would you believe me if I said I just happened to wander into this place?" Everyone rolled their eyes at him. "Just kidding. I'm not interested in goblins, but that dragon island, now that I'm very interested in. If I could slay an ancient dragon, I might become an epic hero, right? By the way, a reminder, although goblins are a low-level race, don't be deceived by their simplicity. While many goblins are low-level monsters, they can evolve. They have no reproductive isolation and can produce stronger offspring. Especially evolved goblins, they are extremely terrifying. Makes sense. I've lived nearly 100 years and have seen more goblins than you've seen women." Gru's previously arrogant voice now turned solemn. This race could be considered the most powerful in the world. They've existed since ancient times, always the enemy of all other races. Even after thousands of years of killing, they haven't been wiped out. Hehe, do you think goblins can be underestimated? If not for the imperial bounty of 300 gold coins, I wouldn't be getting involved in this mess. Cecil, always a humble person, grew more cautious after hearing this. Thinking carefully, even the Sword Saintess had been driven to despair and lost her fighting spirit. These goblins might indeed be unusual. Alright then, Master Gru, let's join forces to deal with those goblins. You can keep the gold coins, I won't take any reward. Cecil finally decided. His original purpose wasn't for the bounty but to eliminate the goblins on his family's orders, proving their superiority to Loder's family. Indirectly, this would show the Emperor that their family was far superior to the Stantmont family. But the situation had changed. To ensure success, it was better to team up with others. Gru's old eyes gleamed with a sly smile. "Since Lord Cecil is so generous, I won't refuse. Let's join forces. Even against a goblin leader or goblin overlord, we can handle it." Cecil, Gru, and the others quickly packed up and left the tavern, finding a spot on the street to discuss their battle plan. "In my opinion, let's solve this with brute force. The Sword Saintess failed because she was held back and couldn't fight properly," Gru suggested. Cecil remained cautious. "There are too many unknowns. We should first find their location, observe, and then make specific plans. You young people are too cautious. It's so troublesome. Leave those tasks to you then." Gru grumbled. Cecil didn't refuse. That works. Wait. He looked toward the entrance of Bright Town. A mysterious figure clad entirely in rusty armor approached, covered so thoroughly that not even a finger or patch of skin was visible. It was the type of heavy armor that offered extremely high defense. For an ordinary person, walking a few steps in it would be strenuous. This person also carried a greatsword on their back. Yes, a greatsword. A weapon half a meter wide and 1.5 meters long. My goodness, that guy is truly bizarre. Cecil couldn't help but remark. At this moment, Gru spoke up. Didn't expect Goblin Slayer to come here. Or rather, of course Goblin Slayer would come. Why don't we have a chat? The heavily armored mysterious man was none other than the infamous Goblin Slayer. He wasn't an adventurer and didn't belong to any faction. He simply enjoyed slaughtering goblins. If he had to be assigned a rank, it would be around the epic level, as stories about him circulated widely throughout the Empire. Cecil felt awkward for a moment. Truly rude of me. I apologize for not recognizing you. Old Gru took the opportunity to mock. Haha, Lord Cecil. Haven't you even heard of Goblin Slayer? He's someone who has killed goblin leaders, you know. By the way, they say in one battle you killed thousands of goblins. Is it true? Upon hearing this, Cecil's face was full of astonishment. That's way too many. And there were goblin leaders among them. Goblin Slayer started to get a bit impatient. True or not, it doesn't matter. Even if I killed tens of thousands, there are still endless goblins to kill. Seeing his impatience, Gru quickly explained their intention. We plan to join forces to wipe out that group of goblins. How about cooperating with us, Lord Goblin Slayer? Yes, even the Sword Saintess fell to the goblins. It's better to cooperate. Hearing how powerful he was, Cecil eagerly wanted to recruit him. Cooperate. I have done that with people before, but every time they got killed by goblins. I think I'll pass. Goblin Slayer politely declined. Aren't you being too arrogant? If you get caught by goblins and have your limbs chopped off and cooked, don't cry for help. Goblin Slayer left without looking back, leaving the two behind, one bewildered and the other angry. Cecil couldn't help but smile bitterly. What a strange person. Just a pure waste. So he killed a few goblins, who gave him such a big face. Someone might think he cleared out some high-tier monsters, maybe even cleaned up the Great Tomb. Gru muttered angrily. On a hillside far from the town, a large green head poked out. Those cold eyes became more and more unsettling the longer you looked at them. Lin Tian used the elven keen skill to observe the three from a distance, calculating in his mind. Goblin Slayer. I didn't expect such a character to exist, someone who specifically hunts goblins. There are too many weirdos. Previously, Loader and his group of perverts enjoyed torturing the weak. Now there was someone who specialized in hunting goblins. What did goblins ever do to them? Oh wait, probably everything. Goblin Slayer, LV65. Race, human. Profession, none. Title, Goblin Slayer, Goblin Charmer, Tyrant, Massacring Maniac, one who shouldn't exist. Skills, Heavy Strike, Father's Blood. Equipment, Rusty Iron Armor, Rusty Broadsword. Overall, 1000-3000. Looking at Goblin Slayer's stats panel, Lin Tian didn't know what to say. How did the stats range from 1000 to 3000? Was this a joke? System, are you kidding me? Or did something go wrong? Lin Tian quickly asked. However, the system gave an annoyingly official response. Sorry, host. There is no issue here. He couldn't think of any more questions to ask. So be it. He decided to check the attribute panels of the other two. Cecil, with an overall combat power of only 13-0, held the profession of Holy Knight and possessed skills that restrained monsters. Gru, with a slightly higher combat power of 14-0, was a great mage with a multitude of skills, making him quite difficult to deal with. Watching them leave Bright Town, Lin Tian also mounted Little Huan and set off ahead. These two diamond-level guys seem pretty dumb. They shouldn't be a big problem, but that Goblin Slayer, I need to think more about him. Riding on horseback, Cecil and his team soon arrived at the vicinity of the former Tianquang tribe site. There was nothing left. It had been specially cleaned up to blend in with the surrounding environment. This created a misleading effect. It made those who came looking for trouble think that the tribe hadn't moved but simply couldn't be found. Such a big goblin tribe should have been discovered by now. This enchanted forest area isn't that big. Old Gru spoke in confusion, feeling that something was off. Cecil also said, there are many traces of battles along the way. Although they are from a long time ago, they prove that the tribe was around here. The two teams searched for a long time and finally found something. Old man, look at this. At this moment, Cecil picked up a strand of golden hair. Gru stared at it for a long time, sniffed it, and examined it closely. If I'm not mistaken, this is elf hair. Elf, that neutral demi-human race. No way. Cecil was somewhat astonished, suddenly understanding something. He quickly said, could it be that the elves helped the goblins hide? That can't be. Goblins were a race everyone wanted to eliminate on sight. If this were true, there must be a high-level intelligent species among them. It doesn't seem like hiding. I've scouted this area and found no caves. The elves probably helped them move and hide their tracks well. These butterflies love the scent of elves. The butterflies seemed to have a purpose and began flying in a specific direction. Follow it, Gru instructed. The group walked, marking their path as they went. Eventually, they followed it to the riverbank. Damn, they might have crossed the river. The butterfly has lost the scent. Gru cursed inwardly, scanning the surroundings. Without the butterfly's guidance, they were like headless flies. Cecil sighed. It's been almost a day, and we haven't even found a trace. Let's wait for Goblin Slayer to find them, and we'll act first. They couldn't find them, but Goblin Slayer might have a way. Gru, however, didn't want to work with that guy, even if it meant taking advantage. It's unnecessary. Look at the edge of the forest across the river. They saw a big goblin wandering at the forest's edge. Upon seeing Cecil and his group, it turned and ran into the forest. Chase it. Upon seeing the goblin, Cecil and his companions immediately tensed up. They waded through the river without hesitation, pursuing into the forest on the other side. On the other side, Lin Tian's lips curled into a smile. Very good, the prey has taken the bait. In the dense forest behind, a mysterious figure in heavy armor approached slowly. The figure reached the riverbank. Upon seeing who it was, Lin Tian frowned slightly. In his plan, he intended to deal with those two idiots first, but he didn't expect Goblin Slayer to follow as well. At this moment, Goblin Slayer emitted strange noises from his mouth. It sounded like he was very pleased. This confused Lin Tian. Is this guy having a mental orgasm? What's he laughing at? Goblin Slayer then untied the weapon on his back and slowly removed the mysterious helmet with his hand. The revealed appearance wasn't that of a bearded man or a scar-faced brute. Instead, it was a striking woman with jade-like fair skin and slightly curly long hair. Her deep green eyes were like a lush, enchanting forest. Her red lips and white teeth were just like an angel from a medieval painting. However, upon closer inspection, one could notice her ears were slightly pointed. Lin Tian thought his eyes were deceiving him. No way. A woman, wearing such heavy armor just to conceal her gender. And what's with those ears? Immediately after, Goblin Slayer started removing her leg armor. Those legs were so beautiful they took one's breath away. Too white and long, with clearly defined muscle lines. Probably developed from years of wearing heavy armor, they were as exceptionally beautiful as ancient Roman sculptures. Bandages. This hits my kink too hard. Can't imagine how fragrant this person must be. I must capture her and make her my exclusive breeding tool. Lin Tian swallowed, tempted to act immediately to subdue her. But in the end, reason triumphed over desire. Her strength was unknown, and he didn't dare to act rashly. Better to deal with those two idiots ahead first. He even suspected she had discovered him and was deliberately trying to lure him out. What kind of intelligent variant is this? I really want to have a good taste. In the river, Goblin Slayer muttered to herself expectantly. Her eyes were full of longing, her expression excited and hard to contain. Her face had turned red. That big goblin was still running wildly, only stopping after covering several dozen miles in one go, collapsing from exhaustion. Damn it, is that guy a dog? Running so fast and so far. Everyone, be careful, the goblin tribe must be nearby. Hearing this, everyone became vigilant. Suddenly, the sound of something cutting through the air rang out. An arrow flew from an unknown direction. Boom! A violent explosion occurred, accompanied by blazing flames. One after another, wild blasts shattered most of the surrounding trees, opening up the view. Cecil quickly shouted, "Careful! Goblins are attacking!" Gabu Quang stood up from behind the bushes, holding a black iron sword and a large battle axe, which were the weapons of Kasimov and the battle roar captain. Seeing this, Gru fired a fierce attack at him. Die! Flames instantly engulfed Gabu Quang's massive form. That guy is likely a hero variant. Focus fire. Gru continued shouting. The Grey Hat members all used fireball magic, bombarding Gabu Quang ferociously. If it were a human, not even ashes would remain. Cecil felt a bit embarrassed watching. That's enough, old man Gru. That guy has long been reduced to ashes. However, when the flames dissipated, Gabu Quang stood there unscathed. His 4 hands were raised in front of him, and combined with the blocking battle axe, he was almost unharmed. Only the skin on his 4 hands had peeled back, looking quite painful. Instantly, Gru's heart trembled. What? He isn't dead. It seems he is indeed a hero variant. Keep attacking. From a distance, on a large rock, Goblin Slayer stood straight, observing everything ahead. She couldn't help but sneer. They don't even know that four-handed goblins have magic resistance. They'll probably all meet their end here. Look around. Goblins are approaching, and they're all big variants. At this moment, Cecil exclaimed. A group of heavily armed big goblins was rapidly approaching, at least dozens of them. Gru then realized they were surrounded. Damn it. Why do these goblins have iron armor and iron swords? We must not let them get close. Cecil, it's up to you now. High-level magic, life spring. Immediately, he activated his skill, creating a spring emitting blue light at everyone's feet. In this area, they could continuously recover their strength. It was equivalent to sustained mana regeneration, allowing for continuous spellcasting. Cecil and his team guarded the group of gray hat mages. Mid-tier magic, Ice Spike. Mid-tier magic, Quicksand Field. Mid-tier magic, Rain of Retribution. For a moment, all sorts of dazzling magical attacks appeared. They truly managed to suppress the group of big goblins, preventing them from approaching. However, only 3 had died so far. Because it was a wheel battle, 100 or 200 fully armed big goblins took turns surrounding and approaching. The injured ones would retreat behind the big rocks for treatment by Ifraya. Once healed, they would continue fighting. But this was not a sustainable method. Lin Tian instructed, Gabu Tian, try to create an opportunity for Gabu Kuang to charge in. Yes, boss. Gabu Tian descended directly from the sky. He jumped onto Gru's head, who was casting Life Spring. He continuously tore at Gru's face with his claws, making it a bloody mess in an instant. Gru screamed in pain and quickly interrupted his spell, High-Level Shield. A shockwave erupted from him, forming a blue shield that blasted Gabu Tian away. But it also created an opportunity for Gabu Kuang and his companions. Gabu Kuang roared, constantly swinging the weapons in his hands. Cecil and his group were so frightened they visibly took half a step back, shouting, "Don't be afraid. Shield bearers. Where are the shield bearers?" Seeing the dire situation, Cecil placed his longsword before him and began chanting. Holy Lord, I shall use your power to drive out the demons. Super-level magic. Holy light enchantment. Cecil commanded, everyone, gather around me. Don't scatter. Old man Gru, how long until your attack magic is ready? Almost there, I just got ambushed. Why didn't you pay more attention? The Grey Hat members were ready to continue their unlimited firepower. Seeing this situation, Lin Tian couldn't help but sigh. Indeed, a diamond-level adventurer team. Their level is much higher than expected. Qualified output, qualified defense. If it were any other goblin tribe, even with 10 hero variants, they probably wouldn't stand a chance. What a pity they came to the wrong place. Gabu Shan, what are you waiting for? As soon as Lin Tian finished speaking, a goblin covered in bone spikes and armor stepped forward. Boss, then I won't hold back. What is that thing? A goblin. Seeing Gabu Shan, Cecil and his team were shocked. It was their first time seeing such a strange creature. Covered in bone spikes and bone armor, Gru sensed something was wrong. His pupils constricted as he realized, damn it, it's a mutant variant. Focus fire on that mutant goblin. Over 100 big goblins joined the attack. Facing this frenzied assault, Cecil couldn't care less about anything else. Run, retreat. I think we've fallen into a trap. Why are there so many big goblins? So many. As Cecil and the others tried to mount their horses to escape, a volley of arrows whizzed through the air. A barrage of arrows scattered their carnivorous horses. There was no way to ride them. Cecil's legs trembled in fear. It's over. I should have expected the elves would use ambush tactics. Should have known. Then, he ignored the others and ran forward in a frenzy. Behind him, screams of agony filled the air. Cecil, save me. Gru's tears and snot flowed freely from the pain. Veins bulging on his forehead, his eyes nearly popping out. But Cecil had no intention of helping him. With death closing in around him, he couldn't hold it together anymore. At that moment, he saw a figure, a full armor figure that brought a sense of safety. Goblin Slayer, sir, please save me. Cecil stretched out his hand and shouted, his face full of pleading. If possible, he wouldn't hesitate to kneel before her. Faster, faster. He had to reach her side quickly, but disaster always struck faster than him. The goblin assassins from the bushes immediately acted, jumping on him and starting to stab and bite crazily. Fortunately, Cecil's armor was thick, so he wasn't injured. He stumbled, unable to walk properly. No matter what he did, he couldn't shake off the goblins. They clung to him like glue. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.